don't worry, while some of y'all want to plug your ears, I'm not going to start singing like so many of our local artists last night. That country music show was something, wasn't it? Pretty awesome. So much fun. Really, just our local artists, the amount of talent that we have, it's amazing. Really special thanks to our sponsor again, Clark's Pump and Shop, for allowing that country music tribute show to happen. Just a quick plug. Our online, our silent auction is still open and available, so we have some memorabilia from signed by artists themselves out in the lobby. There's a QR code out there that'll link you to our online silent auction, so we've got tons of opportunities for you to go in and bid, and again, 100% of the proceeds are going to go back to Paramount Theater and the restoration of their marquee sign out there. So yesterday was a big day. Obviously, we had a great reception. It was crowded. It was loud. There was a lot of good energy there. We didn't get a chance to thank our sponsor, Van Antwerp Attorneys. So appreciative of them. And then our breakfast sponsor this morning, King's Daughters Medical System. We just really appreciate King's Daughters and obviously the Boyd County Fiscal Court for providing lunch for us today. It's just so good to see everybody as we enter the final stretch of the SOAR Ashland Summit. It's just, we feel such a deep sense of gratitude from the SOAR organization. Over 650 attendees, 48 Kentucky counties and 6 states represented here today. Folks, we really showed up, and I'd like to give everybody a round of applause for just to the city of Ashland, Ashland Tourism, the Boyd County Fiscal Court, Boyd County Tourism. I mean, just thank you so much for the warm reception and hospitality you've given to us over these couple days, and I know to the attendees. I mentioned to Judge Chaney, I felt like about 60% of the people I came across had never been to Ashland before. And so what a great reason for you guys to come up and really get to experience this amazing city. Before I introduce our next speaker from our presenting sponsor, Kentucky Power, I just wanted to leave everyone with a few quick thoughts. Congressman Howard Rogers and former Governor Steve Beshear started SOAR in 2014 with a pretty straightforward mission to help answer the question of what's next for Eastern Kentucky, for the region, following the downturn of the coal economy. At SOAR, we're connectors, we're conveners, we're collaborators. We focus on getting the right people in the right rooms to solve the right problems. With tourism being a $60 billion, it's billion with a B, dollar industry in Appalachia, this is some of the lowest hanging fruit that we have, and it's a card that we have to play. However, being real, the real hard work begins, right, when we leave this beautiful community today and we head back to our own. How do you take something that you've heard over the last couple of days, something that you've learned, and apply it to where you live? How do you use today and yesterday, the breakout sessions and all the great content as a catalyst to create new momentum with your own community? Finding answers always starts by showing up, which we've done today, right? Which we've done today. And then also figuring out what part of the rope is ours to pull. And then holding ourselves accountable to pulling that piece of the rope. When it comes to creating and building a better Eastern Kentucky to pass to our sons and daughters and the future generations, we've all got a role to play. Nobody's exempted. So I encourage you to really lean in and listen today as we come down the final stretch of this plenary session. You really may be surprised at how much we can learn from one another. I truly feel, and SOAR truly feels, that our region's best days are ahead of us, and we look forward to doing all we can to support any community, any individual represented in this room today that needs it. You're going to have the full resources, everything that we can do for you is going to be at your disposal. So at that time, I want to invite Amanda Clark, External Affairs Manager at Kentucky Power, to the podium. Amanda?
Good afternoon. Kentucky Power is proud to be the presenting sponsor of the first ever Not So Many SOAR Summit centered around tourism and downtown revitalization. Kentucky Power has had a presence in Ashland for more than 100 years. Today, our headquarters sits a few blocks down Winchester Avenue at the old post office. Kentucky Power covers 20 counties in eastern Kentucky, and the company and its 341 employees are committed to the development of our region. Since 2016, through the Kentucky Power Economic Growth Grant, we've been able to invest nearly $4 million in 74 economic development projects across our region. We've assisted our communities in economic development, education, development and marketing of our sites and buildings, and filled in the gaps to win projects like DashCorp. While we work primarily in the commercial and industrial space, the work each of you are doing makes our job easier. Bottom line, companies are not going to locate in places where they can't see themselves living. Each of you plays a hand in changing the perception of Eastern Kentucky. I believe you wouldn't be here if you didn't believe that too. Like many of you from small towns across the state, I wear many hats in Ashland. Besides being the External and Economic Development Manager for Kentucky Power, I'm the Vice Chair of Ashland's Tourism Commission. I'm also on the Board of Commissioners for the City of Ashland. And this conference, this not so many, I can't call it a mini summit, we can't do that when there's this many people here. This conference excites me on every level, and I deeply encourage you to go back to your places and put some of these things into practice. So thank you again for being here. I gotta look back at Colby and Josh and all the SOAR team and say thank you for being the catalyst that unites us. Kentucky Power is proud to be your partner. We've heard it so many times across the last couple of days, we are so much stronger together. And frankly, I'm very, very excited about the future of Eastern Kentucky. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda, and to anybody else in the audience from Kentucky Power as our presenting sponsor, thank you so much for allowing this great event in Ashland to happen. Next up to the podium, I would like to invite up Ashland's very own Kim McCann. She's a partner at Maine Antwerp Attorneys, and she is also SOAR's Executive Board Chairperson. Kim?
Good afternoon. So nice to see all of you here today in this beautiful theater, and the stage is so beautiful, and we consider it a real treasure here in Ashland, and we're so glad to share it with all of you. It's been here for many, many years and been restored, and we're so very, very proud of it. And I want to thank the Paramount for allowing SOAR to use this venue. I'd also like to thank Colby and Josh for all of their hard work and all of their team that's helped put this together. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention one person. I'm going to ask her to stand up. Brandy Clark, thank you for all you did to bring the Mini Summit. I know that all of you don't know this, but when Brandy first got in her job, this was one of her first missions, was to try to bring some part of SOAR to Ashland, and she worked hard to make that happen. And I know it was many, many hours without sleep and a lot of work, and it doesn't go unnoticed, Brandy, and SOAR Executive Board appreciates you and appreciate what you've done here. I'd just like to say it's been a pleasure for me to serve on the board of SOAR since its inception. It grew from a dream to a movement, and I feel like that SOAR is now becoming a driver for our region. So having all of you all be a part of that is so very important. But one of the things I always try to mention every time I'm given an opportunity to speak is that SOAR is about the region, and all of us have got to work together. You know, we're really not competing with one another, we're competing with the rest of the world out there. And people don't always outside think of us in our own little pockets, in our 15, 20, 100 square miles, whatever we are. They think of us as Eastern Kentucky. And as we all prosper individually, we will all prosper as one. So thank you for working with one another to try to grow our area as much as we possibly can, because I think our future is here, our future is good, and all of us can make it happen. With the right kind of dedication, there's no reason that we can't. So with that, I would like to introduce you to someone that I know personally believes in Eastern Kentucky with her entire heart. She is the district director for Congressman Hal Rogers. She's former president of Unite. She was former executive director of Eastern Kentucky Pride. She's the mother of 3. She grew up in Pike County. She is a non-traditional student who returned to college. She is a champion of all of Eastern Kentucky. She is my very good friend, and I know she's all of your friend. So let me ask to come to the stage right now, Karen Kelly, District Director for Congressman Hal Rogers.
I paid her to say all that. It is truly an honor to be here today. And what an amazing turnout for this event. I think Amanda was exactly right when she said we can't call it the mini SOAR Summit anymore. I think we call it SOAR 2 or Soaring High, because that's exactly what we're doing. And thank goodness for everyone in this community that has rolled out the red carpet. And what a blessing it is to stand in this beautiful theater and just knowing all the history that has taken place here through the years. It's really a treat. Congressman Rogers sends his regrets for not being able to be here today. He's in Washington voting on one of the most important bills of the year, the Comprehensive Federal Funding Bill for the remainder of 2022. It not only includes emergency funding to support Ukraine, may they be in our prayers, and our own national defense, but includes vital funding for our entire region. Particularly our coal mining communities, and some very important earmarks for community projects, including flood control, extending clean water and reliable sewer lines to more homes, supporting specialized health care, and critical funding for our first responders. In the bill, Congressman Rogers also secured another round of funding for Kentucky, $25 million for the 7th year in a row in the Abandoned Mine Lands Economic Revitalization Program. That will bring new opportunities to our coal communities. The Congressman started the pilot program in 2016 to fast-track funding to our communities in most need. Thanks to his vision and hard work, that funding has been awarded for 63 projects in 23 communities in Kentucky alone. And I want to thank SOAR for partnering with our local leaders on many of these projects to help create jobs and affect real change year after year. I do believe if the Congressman were here today, he'd want you to know that he's committed to initiatives that create jobs, increase access to rural broadband, and grow tourism, because these hills and hollers are the best kept secret in the country. And he'll always work to keep the next generation from having to move away to find their future. I want to commend Colby and the entire SOAR team for the work they're doing, but more importantly, I want to thank each of you for leading in your communities. Congressman Rogers always says, time and time again, that Washington, D.C. and Frankfort cannot solve our problems. They can certainly support local efforts, but without community engagement where the rubber hits the road, we are not even in the game. So thank you to each of you for being here, and thank you for the work you do each and every day. I also want to recognize my good friend Kim McCann. She's been involved with SOAR from the beginning and has done an outstanding job as chairman the past couple of years. Congressman Rogers really appreciates you, Kim. Thank you. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't say a few words about one of the best friends Congressman Rogers has ever had. There's a lot of people that Hal Rogers could call on for advice, but there's one that he relies on more than others, and that's Jim Host. It's a treat for me to see them bounce ideas off of each other, but I always seem to walk away with a really long to-do list after the two of them get together. And just know that Jim Host does not forget what's on my to-do list. And if he gives you a list, he won't forget what's on yours either. Personally, I want to say thank you to Jim because I've learned so much from him. He's a great encourager, a great friend, but he's one of those that tells you what you need to hear instead of what you want to hear. And we all need someone like that in our lives. Have no doubt about it, he loves Eastern Kentucky. He jumped on board at SOAR from day one, and he hasn't stopped since. You're in for a treat when he speaks today. But before I sit down, I have to mention one last thing. There's been a little bit of talk about redistricting lately, and I can't leave here today without welcoming all of Boyd County into the 5th Congressional District. no stranger to Hal Rogers. He loves this area of our state and is thrilled to represent you in Congress. He feels the same about the additions of Wolf, Bath, and Menifee counties as well. So even though the map won't be official until January 2023, please know that we look forward to serving you, and we hope that you keep us on speed dial each and every day. Godspeed.
Okay, so Karen has foreshadowed our next guest, and I'm going to keep it kind of short because I know most of you are familiar with our speaker. But he is a true icon, and some don't know that he is the favorite son of Ashland, Kentucky. In 1955, he went to the University of Kentucky on a baseball scholarship. He played professional baseball 1 year for the Chicago White Sox, but unfortunately injured his arm, which brought him back to Kentucky. In 1967, he joined the governor's cabinet and promoted tourism throughout Kentucky, and was instrumental in the construction of Rupp Arena that we all love. In 1972, this gentleman began Host Communications. In 1983, his company actually introduced the NCAA Corporate Partner Program. In 1998, he created the NCAA football logo with his company. In 2003, he was Secretary of Commerce in Kentucky. He's been chairman of the Louisville Arena Authority. He is in the UK Hall of Distinguished Alumni. He's an outstanding alumnus of the College of Communication in the University of Kentucky. He's in the UK Athletics Hall of Fame. He's a member of the National College Basketball Hall of Fame. He also is a member of the National Tourism Hall of Fame. He was a founding member of the executive board for SOAR. He certainly loves Eastern Kentucky. He loves and he loves sports, and I believe he loves all of you. Jim Host.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You continue to do a great job as the chair of this great organization called Shaping Our Appalachian Region. I am delighted to be here today in my hometown of Ashland. This will always be my hometown. I went to junior high here, I went to high school here, I lived down behind Putnam Stadium on Elm Street. I used to walk up Elm Street after passing papers at 4 o'clock in the morning of the Huntington Herald Dispatch. And I would thumb to school every morning after getting out of junior high at Putnam to Ashland High School, which was downtown on Lexington Avenue. And I worked at the YMCA every night. I would then thumb back home. Hard to believe that you could do that in the 50s. Something I suspect you couldn't do now. There is no reason for any of you to be here today if you do not believe in Eastern Kentucky. If you do not believe in Eastern Kentucky, how can you sell Eastern Kentucky? You have to believe in it. You have to believe that we are in the greatest possible opportunity place in the United States to live. Think about those who are living in the middle of Chicago now. Think about those who are living in the middle of New York City right now. Think about those who are living in the middle of Portland, Oregon right now. Think of those who are living in other places that none of us would like to live in because of issues that they have in those places. We do not have any issues that can't be overcome in Eastern Kentucky. But one thing we have to do better, and that is learning how to work even closer together. All of you understand the word tourism. I understand the word tourism. But do you understand that if you are able to get together with some members of your own in the adjacent county or the adjacent area, and perhaps work on joint promotions that you can do much, much better. I saw my first Technicolor movie in this theater, 1954. 3 coins and a fountain. I'll never forget it. I sat somewhere up in that second area on the aisle. I'll never forget that. The other reason I wouldn't forget is the first date I ever had in my life. I also went to church right up the street on the right-hand side in First United Methodist Church. I gained some friends there that I still have. I used to play basketball in the gym there every Sunday night at 6 o'clock in Methodist Youth Fellowship. So I have great memories of this great place. It reminds me of a story about Billy Graham, who was returning to Charlotte after a speaking engagement. When his plane arrived, there was a limousine there to transport him to his home, and as he prepared to get in the limo, he stopped and spoke to the driver. You know, he said, I'm 87 years old. Now, I'm almost 85, so I can equate to this story. I'm 87 years old and I've never driven a limousine. Would you mind if I drove it for a while? Billy gets in the driver's seat and they head off down the highway. A short distance away sat a rookie state trooper operating his first speed trap. This big, long, black limo went by him doing 70 in a 55-mile-an-hour zone. The trooper pulled out and easily caught the limo, and he got out of his patrol car to begin the procedure. The young trooper walked up to the driver's door, and when the glass was rolled down, he was surprised to see who was driving. He immediately excused himself, went back to his car, and called his supervisor. He told the supervisor, I know we're supposed to enforce the law, but I also know that important people are given certain courtesies. I need to know what I should do because I've stopped a very important person. And the supervisor said, is it the governor? The young trooper said, no, he's more important than that. And the supervisor said, oh, so then it's the president. And the young trooper said, no, he's even more important than that. And the supervisor finally said, well then, who is it? And the young trooper said, I think it's Jesus because he's got Billy Graham as a chauffeur. Attitude is the way you think. Your attitude is something that other people can actually see. They can hear it in your voice. They can see it in the way you move. They feel it when you're there with you. Your attitude expresses itself in everything you do all the time, wherever you are. Positive attitude always invites positive results. Negative attitudes, like talking negative about your area where you live, always invites negative results. Attitude makes a difference in every single hour, every day, in everything that you do for your entire life. Somebody asked me, he said, how's your day? My answer is, I've never had a bad day. And the reason I say that is because there's so many people in this world, so many people across the ocean, so many people in Ukraine that are having bad days. None of us are having a bad day today because of where you are and what you're doing. What you get out of each thing you do will equal the attitude you have when you do it. What you get out of what you're doing in selling tourism and selling Eastern Kentucky will equal the attitude you have when you do it. Anything you do with a positive attitude will work for you. Anything you do with a negative attitude will work against you. If you have a positive attitude, you're looking for ways to solve the problems that you have in your areas that you can solve, and you're letting go of things over which you have no control. You have control of making a difference in your county, in your area, and in this part of the state. You can develop a positive attitude by emphasizing the good and by being tough-minded and refusing defeat, just like the leader of Ukraine is doing today. I was raised here. I worked at the YMCA right across the street on 13th Street for 60 cents an hour at night while I was going to high school. I worked for two guys, Bo McMillan and Ernie Chatton. Bo McMillan was a quarterback at Kentucky in the 30s. Ernie Chatton was revered as being one of the top people ever in high school athletics in this state. I played baseball at Central Park. When they had a Hall of Fame there, I was fortunate to be in the first class. I played in Paintsville, Louisa, Wheelwright, Hazard, Grayson, South Shore. I played all over eastern Kentucky. And what I found, every place I went, that I was welcomed, always. There's something different about the culture and the attitude. Call it the unbridled spirit of the people of eastern Kentucky. You want to know where the unbridled spirit logo on your license plates and so on came from? It came from a survey that we did when I was Secretary of Commerce about the fact that we had 51 different brands of state government. 51 different brands, all in different departments. And I convinced the governor that we should have one brand. We should have one brand that sells Kentucky. So we went out and surveyed people, and it kept coming back that the people of eastern Kentucky are tired of hearing people all over the country talk about Kentucky the way sometimes they do. We have a reverence about it. I've never known a solitary person from eastern Kentucky who hasn't left here who said, someday I want to come back home. Someday I will come back home. And I'll tell you how we got a way of doing it. Most of you are, I think, are aware of what's been going on in this state with broadband. And if the pandemic didn't teach us, it should have taught us that we must have better broadband, especially in the rural parts of Kentucky. And we must have that in order to keep kids from having to go to McDonald's to use the Wi-Fi to do their homework, because some counties only have 10 megs, some counties even have less than that, and you can't get anything with that. We are the first state in the United States to connect every single county with mid-mile broadband. First one, through a development that former Governor Beshear and Congressman Rogers started through a grant to begin with from Appalachian Regional Commission. And that's been going on now for almost 20 years. And we now have got every single county connected. And the next thing to do is to connect the last mile. That'll get the last mile into every single rural area of Kentucky. And we have areas of Fayette County and Lexington that still don't have broadband in some of those rural areas, as well as some of the underdeveloped areas of West Louisville. I say all this to you because there has always been a desire by people to have the best that they can possibly have. And when we get this done, and it will get done, when we get this done, we will have the ability of having more and more outreach from each of your counties to communicate to the world and to all parts of the United States through broadband, through the internet, how you can sell your own areas. I commend Colby Hall and your chairperson, Kim McCann, for having the ability of having this regional mini summit focused on tourism. A lot of people don't even know how to spell tourism. And the reason I say that is because a lot of people give it a flip and a promise. But I will tell you, if you all, with this gathering here, which is far greater than I ever thought that Colby could attract with his first mini summit on tourism, if you all will make up your minds that you can take the great assets, we are We have more miles of inland navigable streams in this state than any state in the United States with the exception of Alaska. We do not have a water problem here like California has. And we have great lakes. Think about Lake Cumberland. Think about the great man-made lake of Lake Cumberland, which does so much for that part of eastern Kentucky. Think about all the great waterways we have all over eastern Kentucky. Who has the mountains, the majestic mountains that have fall foliage like we have in eastern Kentucky? There are people that come here from all over the world and the United States to rock climb in eastern Kentucky. We have the Red River Gorge in eastern Kentucky. We have something that I bet you that there's not 9 out of 10 of you that can identify as even going on. We moved the elk to this state in the late 1990s and the early part of 2000. And the elk have become now a great viewing area for people who want to see it. There is a nonprofit organization called the Appalachian Wildlife Foundation that is building an elk viewing center at the convergence of Bell County, Laurel County, Knox County, in an area that was supposed to be an industrial development park, but they couldn't attract any industry there. It's now been transferred, and we have moved 200 elk that's now become 500 elk to that area. It's on the migratory track, exact migratory track of birds coming from Canada to Brazil. I was there the other day and saw an eagle that was there. It's the highest elevation of that part of eastern Kentucky. You can see over Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia from that site. And it's already under construction to be opened in the latter part of 2023. It will be the largest single tourist attraction built in this part of Kentucky ever. And it's already under construction. And it's a non-profit. It's not being built for profit. It's being built by the Appalachian Wildlife Foundation because of the ability they want people to be used for education. They've developed a partnership with the ARC in northern Kentucky, which is attracting now over 1 million visitors a year. The original projections are that this will attract, in the worst case scenario, 500,000 visitors a year. People will come onto it from 25, they will come onto it from I-75 up that route or from I-75 going south down that way to get to it. We've got so much positive things going for us in eastern Kentucky. I was raised here, played ball here, played in Paintsville when I was in the summer year of my senior year in high school, pitched against Steve Hamilton, who was a great player at Moorhead High School or college athlete. He was one of 2 players ever to play in the NBA and Major League Baseball. I pitched against him, beat him 2-1 in the finals of the state summer pro tournament, and Coach Harry Lancaster, who was coaching the UK baseball team, offered me one of the first 2 full baseball scholarships ever given in Kentucky. I would have never, ever been able to do that without the grounding I had with Bo McMillan and Ernie Chatton of the YMCA here, teaching me about what business was and life was, and having the access they did to give me the opportunity to go to the University of Kentucky. And with the education I got there, I was able to build, I have 61 first cousins. My mother's from a family of 15, 12 sisters, 3 brothers. My dad's from a family of 5. I'm the first one ever to college from either side of the family, or graduate from college, and build a company that became known nationwide in the college sports marketing business. Couldn't have done that if I hadn't been raised here and didn't understand the culture of eastern Kentucky. The first day of school, our professor introduced himself and challenged us to get to know somebody we didn't already know. I stood up to look around after a gentle hand touched my shoulder and turned around to find a wrinkled little old lady beaming up at me with an unbelievable smile that lit up her entire being. She said, "Hi, handsome. My name is Rose. I'm 87 years old. Can I give you a hug?" I laughed and enthusiastically responded, "Of course you can." She gave me a great giant squeeze. She said, and I said, "Why are you in college at such an innocent age?" I asked, "I'm here to meet a rich husband, get married, have a couple of children, and retire and travel." "No, seriously," I asked. I was curious about what may have motivated her to take on the challenge of her age. I always dreamed of having a college education. Now I'm getting one, she told me. After class, we walked to the Student Union building, shared a chocolate milkshake. We became instant friends. Every day for the next 3 months, we would leave class together, talk nonstop. I was always mesmerized listening to this time machine as she shared her wisdom and experience with me. Over the course of the year, Rose became a campus icon, and she easily made friends wherever she went. She loved to dress up, and she reveled in living it up. At the end of the semester, we invited her to speak at our football banquet. I'll never forget what she taught us. She was introduced, she stepped up to the podium, and she began to deliver her prepared speech. She dropped her 3x5 cards on the floor. Frustrated, a little embarrassed, she leaned into the microphone. She said, "I'm sorry, I'm so jittery. I gave up beer for Lent and the whiskey is killing me." I'll never get my speech back in order, so let me tell you what I know. As we laughed and she cleared her throat and she began, "We do not stop playing because we're old. We grow old because we stop playing. There are only 4 secrets to staying young, being happy, and achieving success. First, you've got to laugh and find humor every day. You've got to have a dream. When you have dreams, when you lose your dreams, you die. We have so many people walking around who are dead and don't even know it. There's a huge difference in growing older and growing up. If you're 19 years old and you lie in bed for 1 full year and don't do one productive thing, you'll turn 20 years old. If I'm 87 years old and stay in bed for a year and never do anything, then I'll turn 88. Anybody can grow older. That doesn't take any talent or ability. The idea is to grow up by always finding the opportunity and change. Have no regrets. The elderly usually don't have regrets for what we did, but for rather what we did not do. Do not have regrets over what you did not do. Every one of you are here today because you're interested in trying to do better for your county, or for your region, or for your area, or for your city. You can do better. You will do better. You're in the greatest place in the United States to live. God bless Eastern Kentucky. Thank you very much.
We have one more short gift, Jim, that we would like to leave with you for coming back to your hometown. I think you're going to like this one. It's a little bit special from when you were very, very young. If you want to go over there with Karen and Colby. Do you recognize this guy?
more things, sorry. Sure. Hi everyone, my name is Josh Blanton. I'm the Mayor Pro Tem for the City of Ashland, and we couldn't have our favorite son here in Ashland without giving him a couple things. So we have not only a key to the city, but we also have a proclamation from Mayor Perkins, Mayor Matt Perkins, who couldn't be with us today. But this proclamation is declaring March 8th Jim Host Day in Ashland, Kentucky.
By God, after this, you guys should be able to go back and kill a lot of folks.
Hi, I'm Matt Perkins, Mayor of Ashland. Standing here in the heart of our downtown at Broadway Square, we welcome you with open arms to our little city by the river. From festivals to fantastic concerts, your family is destined to have fun with us.
Hi, my name is Michelle Grubb, and I'm the Public Information Officer for the City of Ashland. Recently, the City of Ashland has undergone a whole rebranding. When we put out a survey and investigated what did Ashland really mean, what did we want to be known for, the results came back resounding that it's not just music, it's not just art, but it's a combination of all kinds of aspects of creativity. So that's the new Ashland. The whole motto is create with us. So I'm standing in Ashland Art Alley. This alley is a great representation of the talent that is hidden in so many of our citizens, not only within the city, but our county and the region. Everything from actors and actresses that you may see at the local Paramount Players productions, to Broadway Square, in which you might have local musicians, to live paintings happening at every street corner. This is a place where you can come and thrive. If you want to start a business, if you want to explore what talent is hiding within you, Ashland is the place where you can come create with us.
Hi, my name is Holly Canfield, and I'm the Executive Director of the Paramount Art Center. So the Paramount opened its doors on September 5th, 1931, so we just celebrated the 90th anniversary of our beautiful historic theater. The Paramount operated as a transitional theater for talking pictures, one of the first in the country for many years. And then around 1972, the theater transitioned to a nonprofit performing arts center, which is how we operate today. We present a diverse array of programming to the greater Ashland community. So we have around 250,000 people frequent the Paramount each year from all around the country. They come here to hear our diverse programming, to experience live entertainment, and to enjoy the greater Ashland community. So we recently started a program called PAC Live, or Paramount Art Center Live, which is beyond the walls of the Paramount Art Center, out into our communities. We have programming at our Ashland Riverfront, which we can accommodate thousands of people. I encourage you to get a ticket, come out and join us today.
I'm standing on the Port of Ashland Riverfront, overlooking the beautiful Ohio River. This is a great asset to our community. We have a lot of festivals and different events that happen down here. One of the greatest features that's newly been added to the Port of Ashland Riverfront is something we refer to as the Port of Ashland Sculptures. They were given to us by a generous donor who contacted a world-renowned artist known as Hines Saran Pagan. The three sculptures represent one, Vulcan. He is shown forging on an iron. It represents the metallurgy of the hardworking people of this community. If you notice, Venus is holding an ash branch. It represents the natural beauty that we find in this area, as well as the love of small-town community. The center is known as Genesis, and it rotates 360 degrees at all points in times. It has 5 rods stretched across it, and it represents the 4 elements as well as God. So we invite you to check it out both day and night.
Hello, I'm Carol Allen, the Executive Director of the Highlands Museum and Discovery Center here in the heart of Ashland. Children really enjoy coming to the museum because here not only can they learn historical facts, but they also love to come to our Discovery Center where we have several exhibits that contain interactive play opportunities for children.
Hi, I'm Mike Gracie. I'm the City Manager of Ashland, Kentucky. With over 20,000 residents, Ashland is Eastern Kentucky's largest city. While Ashland is steeped in history, we're very proud of the adaptation and evolution that our community is making. We invite you to come visit us, enjoy our city, and especially enjoy our people, who are world-renowned for their hard work and their friendliness. Come create with us.
Ashland is a community where dreams come to life every day. Whether your vision involves the plate or the palette, we're open and ready for you.
Whether you're picking a fiddle or picking up a plate of good old home cooking, Ashland is a place for everyone. Come create with us.
Good afternoon. As I mentioned, I'm Josh Blanton, the Mayor Pro Tem for the City of Ashland. Our Mayor, Matt Perkins, is unfortunately under the weather today and could not be with us, but he sends his warmest regards, and we're wishing him a speedy recovery. I want to first start by saying a huge thank you to our city staff. You saw several of them in the video. My fellow commissioners, Commissioner Duke, Commissioner Spriggs, Commissioner Clark, who you've seen from. We have an amazing team, as you've seen. Brandy, Michelle, Catherine Hunsinger, and other key players in this event, and I can't thank them enough for all that they've done this week and all they do every week. On behalf of the mayor, my fellow commissioners, and the city staff, we're honored to welcome you all to Ashland, Kentucky. Thank you to the SOAR organization and to each of you for joining us. Ashland is a city like so many others represented in this room. With once booming industries faltering, our community found itself in a struggle. We know all too well the pain of watching families lose their sources of income, of buildings becoming vacant, of grasping for answers from the past while racing towards the future. Fortunately, being in Appalachia, we also know a little bit about grit and tenacity and never giving up. Anybody in this room from areas that has grit and tenacity and know how to not give up? Anybody? That's awesome. The city of Ashland is right in the middle of our revitalization. While we are passionately seeking businesses and showcasing our workforce readiness, we are also committed to improving the quality of life for our citizens and capitalizing on our unique selling points. Over the past 2 years, a group of key leaders of the city, tourism, and multiple organizations have worked to rebrand our city and develop a destination plan. If you go into our tourism office, in the back of the office, you'll see a cartoon from Roger Brooks. You may have heard the name Roger Brooks used this week. And that's where our plan came from, to adopt the plan for our city and our downtown. And it's almost 3 years now that we've been on this plan. But on that cartoon, you'll see a team of horses and a horse-drawn carriage. And it's just illustrating the fact that if those horses are going in different directions, that carriage is not going to go very far. But if they're all going in the same direction, then that's when you make progress. And I like to think that it's meant to be that especially for me in this phase of my life, that I'm here when we have all the pieces of the puzzle together and we're all pulling in the same direction. And it's great to see, but it's great for our citizens. Ashland is a very creative community. Whether it is something in the arts or music, you can find it in Ashland. Not only can you find it in Ashland, but you can be a part of it. Our brand invites our guests to create with us. Many of you did that at the reception already. How many of you painted on our mural at the reception at the train station last night? You all us in here? Yeah, so that's a part of it. Create with us, and that's really what we're striving as a city to be is not just the city creating things, but our citizens can do so much, and we want to be a canvas for the inspiration of our citizens to express themselves. We are inspired by the success stories that are shared during SOAR. It's encouraging meeting you all and hearing about your journey. We hope that in a few years the summit will return to Ashland, and those in this room will be able to give a first-hand account of the change that can happen when a city works together for the betterment of its community. Thank you again so much for coming to our city, and we welcome you to come back anytime and create with us.
Please welcome Boyd County Judge Executive Eric Chaney.
How's everybody today? Doing good? Happy to be here. I welcome you to Boyd County officially and welcome you to the city of Ashland. I will say it feels good to be in a room full of 700 people again. We're getting back to normal, so I'm very excited about that. But let's talk about for just a second what brings us all together here today. And that's SOAR. SOAR's mandate is to fill the economic gaps left by the decline of the coal industry. That doesn't make us all individual counties. Everybody in this room is from a different place. That makes us all family. Because we all are going through the same hard times that we've went through for the past 10, 15, 20 years. When I was running for office in 2018, one of the number one things that I heard all the time was the good old days. That's what we needed. We needed to push hard for what used to be. When we had 5,500 people working in our steel mill, people working at the coke plant. The coal-fired power plant up in Louisa was going strong, and Ashland's headquarters was right here. There is no problem with the good old days, but when I would hear this, I would laugh because I wasn't alive in the good old days. So I don't remember the good old days like everybody else does. But I do know that we can choose our own destiny, and we do that together. We don't do that individually. We don't worry about city lines and county boundaries. We work together. Over the past 3.5 years as Judge Executive, we've took our team and we've looked really hard at what difference we can make. What does local government control? Quality of life. That's the number one thing that your local government can control on a daily basis. We've shifted our entire focus on economic development through tourism. Working with both of our cities, hand in hand. We're currently on the brink of being able to supply this area with 2 convention centers, 120,000 square foot sports complex, a state-of-the-art farmers market, most of which is wrapped up into a mall that was constructed in 1990 that has been this unofficial mascot of this black cloud that's been over our county for 20 plus years. I know that each individual person out there has a story like that in your community. You find ways to make it work. You think outside the box. That's what I encourage here today. I encourage every person to take home new ideas, new directions. Think outside the box. Don't be scared to think up, to speak up. I appreciate you all coming out today, spending time here in beautiful Ashland. Get out and explore. Thank you all very much for coming, and thank you for your time.
Colby Hall and all of the rest of the SOAR for inviting me to say a few words today. I'm so sorry that I can't be with you in Ashland, but I am so excited about this opportunity for an exchange of ideas that you're having surrounding the topics of tourism and downtown revitalization in our Appalachian communities. More than ever, now is the time for us to promote the beauty of our Appalachian land and the rich culture of our Appalachian people. During the COVID pandemic, we saw so many people relocating from our country's big cities to come to our region and enjoy the fresh air, the open spaces, and the outdoor recreation opportunities provided by our natural resources. It's because of this, and because of how much we believe in the beauty of our Appalachian land and the resourcefulness of our Appalachian people, that ARC is focusing on building regional culture and tourism as one of the core goals of our 2022-2026 strategic plan. Through this goal, we aim to join you in your efforts to strengthen our region's community and economic development potential by preserving and investing in our local cultural heritage and outdoor assets. This includes investing in the development of vibrant Appalachian downtown, investing in community development initiatives that preserve and promote our arts, our culture, and our heritage traditions, and preserving and expanding our tremendous natural resources to increase opportunities for that outdoor recreation and economic growth for the outdoor recreation industries. Tourism is a $60 billion a year industry across our 13 Appalachian states. And while a lot of that money goes to our region's dynamic, larger cities and attractions, I know that we all know that our smaller towns and cities, like the one you're visiting today, deserve to get a piece of that pie. I believe the key to this is that we all work together. Each of our regions, states, and communities do have their own unique challenges, but I believe our commonalities far outweigh our differences. We must forget the borders drawn on the map and come together, not as 13 separate states, but as a one united Appalachia. We must promote one another and support each other's goals across county and state lines. And we must take every opportunity to share our expertise and ideas, as you're doing here today at the SOAR Mini Summit. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about shaping our Appalachian region, but also sharing our Appalachian resources. And I truly believe that if we call upon our commonalities and work together, we can make that kind of once-in-a-lifetime positive impact on Appalachia that will reverberate throughout the region for generations. Thank you so much again to SOAR for allowing me to share a few words today and for putting together this focus on tourism and downtown revitalization in our region. And thank you to all of those attending for your willingness to serve your communities and region. You are the ones in the trenches doing the work, and I look forward to seeing all that we will accomplish in Appalachia together. Thank you. Have a great meeting. Hello. Thank you to Colby.
Please welcome Kentucky Wildlands Marketing Director, Farrah Dobbs. Please welcome Kentucky Tourism Commissioner, Mike Mangiot.
For those of you who know Farrah, I'm sorry. I'm sure you'd rather see her up here than me. Colby, thank you for the invitation to be here today. It's so wonderful to see so many tourism friends in the audience from really all over the state, but also to be able to sit in an auditorium like this together without masks and get back to normal somehow. So it's a wonderful feeling. It's great for tourism. I want to thank Colby for the invitation to be here today, and Brandy Clark with Ashland Tourism for all that you do for the city of Ashland and the region. And what Colby asked me to talk a little bit about today, and of course following Jim Host, you don't need me to be a cheerleader up here. I can't do any better than he did and tell you all the great things that this region and this area of Kentucky have to offer. But he really wanted me to walk through some of the services and what we do at the Kentucky Department of Tourism. A lot of folks don't realize that there is a Department of Tourism at the state, what our role is, how we work with the local tourism offices, and then kind of an outlook on 2022 and beyond as far as the tourism industry. It's certainly no secret that our industry was hit incredibly hard by COVID. We were probably the very first industry hit when you saw the cancellations of meetings, conferences, events, restaurant shutdowns, etc. But we have bounced back pretty well. Currently for this year, We are funded with a 1% statewide transient tax, and those revenues at this point are actually outpacing 2019, which was our first or last kind of real year, if you will, pre-COVID. So we're very excited about that. We're not back fully, but we're very optimistic, and I'm going to give you some literally hot off the press statistics on traveler sentiment in just a second. But let me back up and talk a little bit about the Department of Tourism and what we do. Our mission, to just kind of get to the very bottom or basics of it, is that we promote Kentucky as a destination, as a travel destination to drive economic development and spending. What your local tourism office does, whether you're in Ashland, Pikeville, Wherever, what they do on a local, regional level, we do on the state and international level. So we certainly have a marketing department. We spend, we'll spend this year in the neighborhood of about $5 million on paid media promoting Kentucky. Our primary feeder states are the upper Midwest and our border states. So Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and of course the border states. We're great for a regional drive market. Kentucky is a drive market. What do I mean by that? Most of our visitors drive in and don't fly. That's pretty basic. But that is going to put us in good stead and really helped us get through the pandemic in pretty good shape. If you look at the impact of the pandemic on us, we were down about 26% overall statewide in economic impact in 2020 to 2019. We're doing our 2021 numbers now. We should have those in a couple of months. But when you look around us, Tennessee was actually down 31%. South Carolina was down about 25%. West Virginia 27%. So we held our own in against our competitor states. I give a lot of credit to the work of the local CABs and the local businesses who took the pandemic seriously, took the risk mitigation seriously. I give credit to Governor Beshear for the work that he did in trying to keep us all safe. And that showed through in our research. People viewed Kentucky as a safe destination through COVID. But on the marketing side, as I said, we do about $5 million in paid advertising. That's everything from digital advertising, TV, radio, print, boosted social media, paid social media, etc. We have a PR and communications office, and how many of you have seen in your favorite magazine or online, you see the stories, top 15 weekend getaways or top 15 outdoor. We've all seen those, right? Those don't just happen. We pitch that, we work with local and national publications like USA Today and others who reach out and ask us, what do you have? And we pitch those story ideas. So it's important that we have all the latest up-to-date information on new attractions, new developments, activities, festivals, events that are going on, because we get those on a daily basis. We call that earned media. That's not something we pay for or something we own like our website. To me, that is the most valuable media you can have, because that is a third party, a magazine writer or someone telling a very large audience, I did this, had this experience, and you should too. It's incredibly valuable to us, and we actually have 2 staff members and a PR firm that we work with on that. We also have an Office of Outdoor Adventure that oversees our Trail Town program. I know you have a panel later on trail development, and we talk about that during that panel. We also have an Office for Multicultural Tourism, International and Domestic Sales. Domestic sales we talk about are really primarily motor coaches, and I know in some of your markets, Pikeville, Tony Taggett does a great job in the motor coach market. Those are the big motor coaches you see rolling down the road. And I always caution everybody, if you get behind one of those in your town and you're in a hurry and you want to honk out and say, get out of my way, please don't do that. We call them rolling piggy banks. Because if they stop in your community, they're going to spend on average about $5,000 in your restaurants and your local businesses. If they spend the night, you get more than double that. So wave, be friendly, welcome, whatever you can do. And the good thing in Kentucky is that shows through in our research as well, that our folks are so friendly and hospitable. On the international front, many folks look at us and say, Kentucky's not really an international destination, or you may be saying that locally. And I can tell you from personal experience, because I was the tourism director in Bardstown, Kentucky for a couple of years, international visitors are coming to your area whether you know it or not. You know, one of the challenges in tourism is we promote the quality of life, everything that's out there. But if you're not, you know, your restaurants, your attractions, your museums, your landmarks, your outdoor activities, whatever it may be, but if you're not in our industry, if you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, you sell insurance, you work at a bank, whatever it may be, and you're not in this, you're not seeing those customers come in every day. When I was in Bardstown and started out, I asked, how are we tracking our visitors? And they had literally a 50-question iPad survey, and I was like, nobody's doing that. So in the back room, I found an old guest register, very simple, old school, and I put it out, and I signed my name. And I said, we're not going to ask for email addresses or anything else. Where are you from and why are you here? Within the first 6 weeks of doing that, we had visitors who took the time to sign the book from 39 states and 6 countries in large states. They're coming here now, whether you believe it or not. And international visitors usually spend about 3 weeks, in the States. They visit 3 to 4 individual states, and they spend about 8 times what a domestic traveler does. So we have an international marketing person. We're very active in the international market, primarily the UK, Germany, France, and Canada. Some people don't consider Canada an international market because you don't have to fly, but we do, and obviously, and we're very focused on that market as well. And how we work with our local partners, and right now there are about 85 destination marketing organizations on the local level here in Kentucky. Those, you may know those as a convention, Visitors Bureau, a Tourism Commission, whatever, however you want to call that. But those are about 85 that are recognized, established under statute that we work with on a daily basis, and we work very closely with them. We go to trade shows together, we market cooperatively. We have a matching funds program in the state that this year will put $2 million back into your local communities and matching funds for marketing and advertising. In addition, we do research and spend a significant amount of money on research annually, about $1 million annually on research. Everything on a visitor profile. We want to know who's coming, not only to the state, but who's coming to your region. So in Kentucky, there are 9 designated tourism regions. In this area, and the names have changed, and I've been around long enough to know the old names. So we call it Eastern Highlands North, Eastern Highlands South. I think it's now Kentucky Appalachians and Daniel Boone Country. I wish y'all would quit changing the names on me. But we work with them on a regular basis to market the region collectively. And we also can provide that research. So it's a visitor profile. Who's coming for day trips? Who's coming for overnight trips? Where are they coming from? What's the travel party look like from a demographic standpoint? What's the household income? We put all of that information online. So if you're interested to find out what your regional profile is, you can go to KentuckyTourism.com. At the bottom of the page, there's an industry tab that you can click on, and we make that public. And there are many times when they'll call us, the director will call us and say, I need help on a specific project. If we're able to help them with that, we do that as well. Another program that I don't think has gotten the exposure that it warrants is the tourism development incentives that we offer. Kentucky in 1996 passed the very first Tourism Development Act, which provides financial incentives for private investment in specifically tourism-related projects. When you look at projects like Newport on the Levee in Newport, Kentucky, the Newport Aquarium specifically was the first project. That was going to Cincinnati. Because Cincinnati, you had Atlanta Aquarium, some of the major cities, they wanted to go to Cincinnati. But this incentive came across the river and put it in Newport. And what it is, in essence, is for a project with a minimum investment of $1 million, the developers can receive 25% of their capital construction costs back over a 10-year period through a sales tax rebate. And in enhanced incentive counties, which unfortunately many of the eastern Kentucky counties are, that goes up to 30%. That's an incredible incentive. And since 1996, we've had over $1.5 billion invested in tourism projects in Kentucky. Unfortunately, many of those are in our urban areas. So we want you to know about that. Please reach out to me if you want to talk about that. We'll walk you through the process. It's typically about a 4-month process from the time you apply to the time of approval. But it's a great tool in your toolkits as you're looking at product development. So let me talk briefly about through the pandemic, working with our partners as well as to keep the lights on in Kentucky tourism. In May of last year, actually prior to that, the CARES Act, remember there's been 2 big bills passed, the CARES Act back in April of 2020 and the American Rescue Plan Act that was passed I think in December of 21. Under the CARES Act, there was a pot of money with the Economic Development Administration. We applied for and received a grant under that in the amount of $2.8 million. What we did at the state was we worked with those 9 tourism regions, all individually, and scheduled a media campaign, $300,000 each, promoting the regions. Now the regions had the input on what markets they wanted to go into, they had the input on what the messaging was going to be, and then the flight of the schedule. So we ran most of those the first half of the fall, and then we've got a few more launching this spring, which is the heavy travel season. So again, that's about $2.8 million that we spent directly with the regions for the local benefit. In May of last year, Governor Beshear awarded us a $5 million CARES Act grant for tourism recovery marketing. With that money, we went out and talked to our partners again and said, where are you hurting? What are you looking for? Where are the needs? One of those was, again, the motor coach market. So we upped our advertising in that. The meetings and conventions market, events like this, really drive many of our larger economies, tourism economies in the state, such as Louisville and Lexington and Northern Kentucky. And why is that important? Because when there's a large conference in any of those cities, and again, I was in Bardstown, so I saw it firsthand. If there's a large conference in Louisville, I got a lot of day visitation from that, or people stay over either on the front end or the back end of the conference to come in and spend some money in our community. So you may think, well, that's only benefiting the urban areas, and I would say, no, there's benefit for all of Kentucky when the meetings and conventions market is back. You know, one big convention in Louisville will generate 50,000 room nights. Think about that. Think about the number of people that are spending money that's rolling over throughout Kentucky's economy, driving in, driving out, stopping, getting gas, eating at restaurants, etc. So the meetings conventions market is important for us. We also focused on the leisure market, of course, which is our biggest market, and some international sports tourism. On the leisure market, it gave us the opportunity to go in some feeder cities we hadn't been in before, like Detroit, Michigan. Kentucky, as I said, is a drive market. That's big, and I'm going to tell you a little bit of research here in just a second as to why. But what really saved us through the pandemic was that we were so easy to get to from so many states. We were, as I said, we were considered a safe destination. But also, the small towns and our outdoor activities really took off. We had some communities with actually record years. We actually showed an increase in economic impact in 2020 because of the outdoor opportunities and the less dense population areas. And I think that's going to hold us in good stead moving forward. Also in the leisure market, we've wanted to focus on a couple of new markets that we really hadn't had in our media mix, that being the Black traveler, the Hispanic traveler, and the LGBTQ+ market. That is a market that is a very desirable market from a spend category standpoint. And I've always said Kentucky cannot reach our full tourism potential until we're a welcoming state for everybody. So we're, for the first time this spring, we did a lot of research, did a lot of content development, photography, etc. For the first time in our spring campaign, we're going to have a segment specifically targeted to the LGBTQ+ market. Most recently, under the American Rescue Plan Act, the Economic Development Administration earmarked $750 million just for tourism promotion and projects. Of that money, $510 million was divvied out directly to the state tourism offices under a very arcane formula. I still haven't figured out how they came up with that, because Rhode Island got like twice as much money as us. But we got $5.3 million out of that. And what we're doing with that money, when the governor's office, when we notified them of this and they said, how do you want to use it? We said, we need to get this money in the hands of the DMOs, of the destination marketing organizations, because they're the one element throughout this that really had not gotten a lot of support. You know, the governor gave $40 million to restaurants back in 2020. The hotels and many of the attractions were eligible for the PPP loans, but the DMOs themselves really were struggling from a recovery standpoint in marketing. So the governor's office immediately said, great idea. So we have gone through that application process, and in probably the next 3 to 4 weeks, we're going to be distributing that $5.3 million out to those local tourism commissions for marketing. They deserve it. They have done such a fantastic job throughout this. And you know, marketing is the lifeblood of what we do. We're not the only states that have gotten this kind of recovery money. Tennessee's gotten $100 million, West Virginia $105 million that'll be going out. If you haven't already, you're going to be seeing ads for states you've never seen before in your market. And I always liken this, and it's always helpful when you're talking to elected officials to put it in terms that they understand. They say, well, why is tourism marketing so important? Think of it as an election cycle. As a candidate running for office, you're not going to go on you're going to buy signs, yard signs, you're going to buy ads, etc., right? Why? Because you're not just going to take it for granted everybody knows you. It doesn't matter how long you've been in office. You're going to buy that stuff, and the bumper stickers and everything else. Think about tourism as an election. We're trying to get somebody to elect to come to our destination and spend money against everybody else out there. So with the increased competition, this money we think is going to be a huge help to the local partners, We're already talking, each of the 9 regions is also getting a piece of that money. So we're very excited to be able to put that money out there to good use. So what's happening in 2022? How do we look for 2022? As I said, our 1% revenues are outpacing 19, which is great. 19 is the bellwether that everybody keeps going to because it was the last normal year. And I'm happy about that. But you have to step back and think, that's great, but I don't want to be where we would have been in 2020. We need to be where we would have been in 2022. So we have to catch up and really be aggressive in our marketing and try and drive new traffic. And I think there's I'm very optimistic for travel in 2022. The recent relaxation in a lot of the mask mandates, the fact that we're sitting in here, a few of us are wearing masks, the growth of the vaccines, new treatments that are coming along to make this more of an endemic than a pandemic are huge for travel and tourism. So a couple of things. We work with a company called Longwoods International, who is one of the, more than 30 years in the tourism industry doing research all over the world. They do our visitor profile that I was referencing earlier. When the pandemic started, they started doing bi-weekly research waves on travel sentiment. How are you feeling? How's COVID impacting you? What are your concerns, etc. And just this morning before I came up, I got their 57th wave of this. And that's hard to believe that they've been doing this every 2 weeks through the pandemic, and we're now at the 57th wave. But some interesting things that came out of this. As of this morning, 92% of the people that they surveyed indicated that they have plans to travel in the next 6 months. That is a pandemic high. First one was at about 87% when we were still like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. It got as low as the low 60s, upper 50s in people who said they're definitely traveling in the next 6 months. 92%. That's a great indicator that the higher volume of travel is going to continue, but there's a catch. If anybody filled their gas tank this morning, like I did, that's a rude awakening right now with everything that's going on. Almost 6 in 10 Americans, 59%, say that the current rise in gas prices will either impact or greatly impact their decision to travel in the next 6 months. We all know rising gas prices is not new at times, especially during travel seasons. That's a red flag. But one of the things that you need to keep in mind that historically, during past significant spikes in gas prices, travelers adjust to the extra cost by lowering their spend on other areas, like accommodations and food. What they'll do, for instance, is instead of going to a full-service hotel, they'll go to a limited-service hotel, which maybe provides a breakfast, so that takes one of their meals off. It really doesn't impact their desire or the pent-up demand to travel. They just offset it in different ways. Key to this for Kentucky, and especially Eastern Kentucky, is that regional drive markets have traditionally fared better than longer haul markets where you may have to fly or drive extra. Bottom line, industry, we need to prepare for higher level of price sensitivity among both business and leisure travelers this year, but the regional drive market is going to remain very, very strong, and that's a plus for Kentucky. Only 21% of people said that COVID is going to impact their travel plans. Again, that's the expansion of the vaccine. People have learned how to travel with it, the fact that it's turning more from a pandemic to an endemic. And leisure travel activities are recovering. Any research you do, the 2 leading activities are usually visiting friends and relatives and road trips. And those are continuing. Again, positions Kentucky in a great way. Americans planning to travel this spring continue to show increased interest in the great outdoors. You know, people ask me all the time, what's Kentucky known for on the international market? Kind of what's our calling card? Anybody want to guess what we start with? Horses, and I heard bourbon. Exactly. Those are 2 of the things that really set us apart from anybody else. I've always said, if you take every 50 state, all the visitors guide, our fulfillment piece, our official guide, and put it on a table and took the names off, you can put beautiful sunsets, you can put beautiful mountains and everything else. You're not going to know who that is, but if you put a horse on there, people are immediately going to default to that's Kentucky. Thank you, Kentucky Derby, right? Thank you very much for that exposure for 100 plus years. Bourbon has grown to that in certain markets. And what the pandemic did, we've always promoted the outdoors, but what the pandemic really did was elevate our outdoor adventures to that same level as bourbon and horses. And again, Mr. Host was talking about Red River Gorge and our waterways and houseboating on Lake Cumberland and so many of our other places in our hiking trails. One of the interesting things through the pandemic is our visitor profile, the age actually dropped. And that's the first time that had happened in probably 20 years. Younger people who weren't as concerned about COVID and its effect came to Kentucky. They came down to see what we were about. And our research has always shown, once you get them here, they're going to come back and become advocates for us. So that's a huge opportunity. The other thing that showed up that really I wanted to point out was the festivals and events. People are very interested in getting out, being with people, and hitting festivals and events, yet they're still going to be concerned about the protocols. So if you're putting a festival or event on, don't have to have masks, but still make sure there's hand sanitizer. Still make sure there's opportunities to get out and disperse the crowd a little bit. Bottom line, folks, and what I'll close with is I'm very bullish on travel in Kentucky. I actually got a note from someone the other day that said, "What do you do all day?" And I emailed him back and said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Kentucky sells itself, you know, with the beauty and all the assets we have." And don't get me wrong, I feel very, very fortunate to be in the job that I am and have the privilege of promoting Kentucky as a destination around the world. But I'm even more fortunate to be able to do it with so many of the professionals that are in this audience who work on a daily basis to enhance your local quality of life, enhance the visitation and the spend, and yes, the economic development that comes from tourism. They were rock stars throughout the pandemic. Became, you know, the local voice for what's the newest restrictions and how can we help the local hotel workers and restaurant workers and everything else. So thank you all for what you do. You make my job so much easier. And I tell them all the time, they don't believe it, but I tell them, you know, over the years, and I've been fortunate to be in this job a couple of times, I have other state travel directors when we're at trade shows together look at me and have come up to me on numerous occasions and say, "We envy how well your folks get along and collaborate." Because in some states, you know, the eastern part of the state doesn't talk to the western part of the state. They're true competitors. I've sat in rooms with Lori Saunders from Georgetown when she's promoting Richmond. And I've sat in rooms with Tony Tackett from Pikeville when he's promoting Prestonsburg or Paintsville or Ashland. That's what we do. The traveler does not see lines, county lines. They just are looking for an authentic experience that's going to be memorable, just like we do. And one of the greatest things about Kentucky, when you look at all of our experiences, whether it's bourbon, horses, outdoors, music, and the arts, whatever it is, it's authentic. And that authenticity and that experiential tourism is what's going to drive this. And I think the potential here in Eastern Kentucky is off the charts. I've always felt like that. I think, as has been said a couple of times earlier, the cooperation amongst the communities is critical to your success. And if there's anything that my office can do to assist in that, I'm going to stick around a little if you want to speak with me. But that's what we're here to do. So just to wrap up, again, thanks to Colby and SOAR for all that you're doing for tourism. It's so good to be here and speak with you. It's been great these last 2 weeks because I actually I'm able to get out and do my job. Right? I've been in Murray yesterday, Ashland, I'm in Covington tomorrow. I was in Berea, in Louisville, and Lexington, and Corbin the next couple of weeks. And that's what tourism's about. And I'm just so excited to be here. And thank you all for your commitment and dedication to being here. And again, I'll be around if you have any questions or want to speak afterwards. Thank you very much.
Kentucky Wildlands Marketing Director, Farrah Dobbs.
Hey everybody, I bet you thought he was going to peel his mask off and be me, huh? Alright, so welcome to the Kentucky Wildlands. I am your tourism director, your marketing director, Farrah Dobbs. The Kentucky Wildlands is both a destination for visitors and an initiative by the people of southern and eastern Kentucky. As a destination covering 14,000 square miles, the Kentucky Wildlands is rich in natural splendor, outdoor adventures, culture, folklore, and tradition. It is home to one of the most diverse ecosystems on the planet. Visitors can wonder at the same breathtaking scenery first viewed by Daniel Boone when he crossed the Cumberland Gap in 1769. This largely untamed wilderness is a wide-open playground, still waiting to be explored. As an initiative, the Kentucky Wildlands is a regional tourism marketing program in 41 counties of Appalachia, Kentucky. It includes a regional brand, media campaign, hospitality education, itinerary development, and entrepreneurial training. The Kentucky Wildlands spurs economic development by promoting this area as a regional tourism destination filled with majestic beauty, rich culture, boundless adventure, and endless opportunities. Our mission is to enhance this region's quality of life and economy. We stand on 3 pillars of work: elevate, embrace, and empower. We are so passionate about working with our partners in the tourism and hospitality industry. The goal of the Kentucky Wildlands is to elevate the awareness of our natural assets, our majestic waterfalls, our lakes, our arches, our trails. We want to embrace our history and culture and marvel in the beauty of our people and our accents. We want to empower our partners by working with them in their endeavor of making their destinations known on a national level. We have 15 of the 25 trail towns in the Kentucky Wildlands. We have around 40 lakes. We have more than 20 Kentucky state parks. We have 3 national scenic byways. We have the Breaks Interstate Park, known as the Grand Canyon of the South. We have London, the cycling capital of Kentucky. Manchester, the land of swinging bridges. The Big South Fork Scenic Railway, which hosts the acclaimed Polar Express. The Port of Ashland sculptures that flow with energy from the Ohio River. Lake Cumberland brings in over 4 million visitors yearly, actually seasonally, more than the Grand Canyon. We have the Niagara of the South with Cumberland Falls, which, by the way, boasts the infamous moonbow, and there are only 2 in the world. We have music festivals that draw crowds from all over the United States. Amon Sugar Shack that has been featured in Southern Living magazine. The Red River Gorge that has over 100 natural sandstone arches, and we have over 800 waterfalls in the Kentucky Wildlands. The Kentucky Wildlands is on the path to become Kentucky's first and only National Heritage Area, or NHA. Congress designates NHAs as places where natural, cultural, and historic combine to form cohesive, naturally important landscapes. It sounds like us, huh? Unlike national parks, NHAs are large, lived-in landscapes. That means they collaborate with communities to match local interests and needs without taking ownership of your land or imposing land use controls. NHA designation is a long process, but it is well worth the effort. Becoming an NHA will put the Kentucky Wildlands on the map, literally. With only 55 NHAs in the country, our region would join an elite list of destinations that are prized by nature, culture, and history enthusiasts. As an NHA, the Kentucky Wildlands will receive technical assistance and funding from the National Park Service. That will help us build our region's tourism infrastructure and sustain our marketing efforts. Bottom line, the Kentucky Wildlands NHA will boost our economy across the country. NHAs drive economic development. In our neighboring West Virginia, the National Coal Heritage Area generated $207 million in economic impact and $16.8 million in tax revenue and supported 2,744 jobs in 2016. It takes several years to be recognized as an NHA. We are grateful to Congressman Hal Rogers and Senator Mitch McConnell for taking the first step in 2019 when they filed companion bills in the House and Senate to begin this federal process to designate Southern and Eastern Kentucky as the Kentucky Wildlands National Heritage Area. That act directed the Secretary of the Interior to complete a study to determine whether the region meets the requirements to become Kentucky's first NHA. The National Park Service is conducting the study now, and it should be complete by 2023. At that point, we will learn if we have earned this important distinction. This is where you come in. We are asking for community support for this designation. There is still time to sign up for one of our 3 virtual informational meetings about designating the Kentucky Wildlands as Kentucky's first and only National Heritage Area. Public input is critical to this designation process. These meetings will will be your chance to learn all about the Kentucky Wildlands National Heritage Area and tell us what you think about it. So you can go online at www.exploreKYWildlands.com and sign up for one of our 3 virtual meetings. We have our first one this Thursday at 1 o'clock, and then we have 2 more next week, next Tuesday at 10:30 and 5:30. So if you don't care, just check out our website, check out our Facebook page, leave us a comment. Be sure to make a comment in our chat whenever you're on our virtual meetings, and enjoy our short video that we have coming up here. Thank you all so much. I appreciate your time.
Covered the land. Stands of trees so dense and impenetrable, they were considered jungle. And in the high-ridge forests of the Kentucky Wildlands stand some of the last remaining old-growth forests in America. Its rugged landscape and remote location, it's very sad. A land once thought uninviting, now treasured. Waterfalls, wildlife, and plants previously hidden, revealed for the first time. It's a land that speaks to our soul. It calls to us, tapping into our primal instinct to roam, to explore, to discover life is best lived outside. The Kentucky Wildlands are for escapists, traders of concrete for moss, walls for vistas, and bustle for bliss. Carved from wind and water, this land of extreme inspires with towering cliffs, sandstone arches, and the Niagara of the South, Cumberland Falls. Its thunderous roar and elusive moonbow, symbols of nature's power and intimacy. It's here the adventurous find heaven, measured in adrenaline. Rivers, raw and untamed, flow through Red River Gorge. Affectionately known as the Red, its steep walls of granite are one of the top climbing and rappelling destinations in the world. And beneath the earth, secret worlds await. For thrill seekers, the Kentucky Wildlands is more than a place. It's a quest, a place to push limits, to test and challenge. Here, the curious become curators, more than visitors, but keepers in their own rights of this unique land by diving deep into Appalachian history and legends, savoring its flavor in recipes passed down from generation to generation. It's where artisans turn gifts of the land into objects of beauty, and stories are told in strings and song. In fact, some of the greatest names in country music are from the Wildlands region and are honored on the Country Music Highway. It's here in these majestic wildlands that Kentucky remains much as it was when first discovered. Unmatched in beauty and inspiration. Unique and mysterious. Full of life and opportunity.
Outstanding video. I'm Dave Atkinson, and it's an honor for me to be invited by SOAR to come and moderate this next panel on trail tourism. And I want to congratulate Colby and all of the folks involved with SOAR. This is such a great, if this is a mini summit, we have a regular summit, I think we're talking rough arena. But congratulations to everybody who's taken the time from your work to be here to talk about the future of Appalachia. A few years ago, before I retired from the Kentucky Chamber, we put together a group of Eastern Kentucky business people and formed a task force to talk about what could be done to stir the economy of Eastern Kentucky. In the first meeting, the discussion turned to tourism. Eastern Kentucky is a gorgeous part of our state. We've got 4-lane highways through many areas of the state. And so we formed this task force and started talking about tourism. We raised some money and hired a consulting firm, international consulting firm, and we were going to study what's possible. And the Chicago office of this firm took on the job, and a woman who was the project manager said, yeah, I'm coming down there on Thursday, and we'll start this day. First, we're going to do a survey. She told me she and her husband were going to ride motorcycles because they'd always wanted to tour Eastern Kentucky on their motorcycles. These are folks from Chicago waiting for an opportunity to come down here and see Eastern Kentucky. And she did. They came down and, I mean, they really went all over this state and created an inventory of tourism possibilities for our state. So that brings us to this topic today. We've got a wonderful panel here. Excuse me. We've got this wonderful panel of folks who've been involved with trails, and they're going to share their expertise. I'm not going to introduce each one of them because I want them to introduce themselves and talk about, just very briefly, like a little 1-minute segment, because we're going to get into a conversation here, and we're limited on our time. But just tell what you do and the area in which you operate. We've invited Jeffrey over from West Virginia because he has done a tremendous job with the Hatfield-McCoy Trail. And why don't you start, Jeffrey?
Sure. So welcome. I'm Jeffrey Lusk. I'm the Executive Director of the Hatfield-McCoy Regional Recreation Authority. We're a 14-county trail authority in southern West Virginia. We were created to do what you're doing in eastern Kentucky, to diversify the economy. Our project is using ATV trails to diversify the economy. We're a regional project. Jim Host said it best. You know, we've got to stand united. We've got to stand as a region. We need to be regional in everything we think of, not thinking of county lines, state lines, city limits. We want to provide a safe experience to our riders. And the biggest thing is we want to open up 1,500 miles of ATV trails, making southern West Virginia, eastern Kentucky, and southwest Virginia. And hopefully they got my map up there. That's the region we serve. One of the Disney worlds of ATV riding in the eastern United States.
Thank you, Jeffrey. We're going to be picking your brain to learn how you've done it and figure out how we do it right here in this state. Matt, from the Forest Service.
Yeah, I'm Matt Abel. I'm the Trails and Dispersed Rec Program Manager for the Dana Boone National Forest. I have been in that role for about the last 7 years. Just recently started to transition into a different role, but I've enjoyed working in eastern Kentucky and working with a lot of the local communities to see how we can incorporate trails and how we can help tie you guys to the Dana Boone National Forest.
How many counties do you cover there, Matt?
19, I believe, touch the forest.
19. Okay, great. Okay, we've got Eric here. Eric is with the Back Roads of Appalachia and has done a lot of work to create an attraction there. So Eric, introduce yourself.
Yes, hello, I'm Eric Hubbard, Director of Back Roads of Appalachia. Our mission's real clear. Economic development through motorsports, mainly motorcycles and exotic cars. We have the perfect opportunity. The roads we have to serve, thanks to our generations of coal mining communities. These guys are great to come and explore. And we're just honored to be here and be part of this. Thank you.
And you're based?
We're based out of Lynch, Kentucky, and we cover 32 counties.
Wow, 32. Terrific. Glad to have you, Eric. Scott, the First Frontier Appalachian Trails, tell us what you're up to. I don't think we got that.
Sorry about that.
There you go. Okay.
My name is Scott Smith. I'm the Executive Director of the First Frontier Appalachian Trails. We currently consist of 19 member counties with the possibility of expanding to 37. Since July of 2021, we've been able to either map or obtain maps for nearly 1,000 miles of potential trails in eastern Kentucky. One of our primary goals is to use a regional approach to improve the local economies of our member counties through trail-based tourism. We believe that we can create a world-class trail system that will attract thousands of visitors year after year.
Great. Thank you. I think each one of you has mentioned regional in some way or the other. We'll come back to that in just a minute. Jeffrey, go a little deeper into how you all got started. I know you started small, now you're big. Tell us about how that transpired.
So we're not new to the game. In 1993, the first studies were done on our project. They were actually done by the Corps of Engineers to see if there was a feasibility, whether or not if you developed recreational trails in southern West Virginia, the folks would come and visit these trails. In 1996, our West Virginia legislature created the entity I now work for, the Hatfield-McCoy Regional Recreation Authority. 5 years later, in 2001, we opened up our first trails. We're in our 21st year of operations, and it was a slow process. We started with 2 counties and 300 miles of trail and no lodging. And if Eric and I were talking out, you look at eastern Kentucky and you look at southern West Virginia, they were not built as tourism communities. They were built as trail. They weren't trail towns. There wasn't lodging. It was just what was needed there to support the coal industry. So as we go forward, one of the biggest challenges we have is how do we develop these, what were historic industrial towns into tourism towns. We've since developed into 7 southern West Virginia counties. We now manage over 1,000 miles of ATV trails. And of that, last year we sold 94,000 permits for folks to come and ride our trail system. Of those, 81% were non-West Virginia residents. We already connect with the Spearhead Trail System in Virginia, and we're going to connect with Scott's Project in eastern Kentucky to make a 3-state, 50-county region of ATV trails that'll be like anything, nothing else like it in the entire country for tourists to come that want to do power sports.
You know, as these folks come from a lot of different angles to this conversation today, some people are thinking trails for ATVs, some for hiking, especially in the Forestry Service. You've got horseback riding, and then you've got biking, motorcycles on our highways and back roads. Jeffrey, what are your main focus? And then I'll ask the other 3 the same thing.
So our primary focus is certainly motorized ATV trails, but when you touch on those other trails, when we look at southern West Virginia, and you can't wait on a project like us, which takes 20 years to develop, when you look at every little community in southern West Virginia, what you see is an opportunity for trails, whether they're hiking trails, equestrian trails, biking trails. Eric talked about highway trails, which are there already. You don't have to build any infrastructure. For us, it's primarily the motorized. What we're seeing throughout southern West Virginia is a push for all types of trails, and we're seeing tourists from all over the country want to come and enjoy those trails.
Yeah. What about the other side, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, as the National Forest, we sort of have to cater to everyone, the whole public. So we have all those trails. We have equestrian, pedestrian, mountain bike. We even have some water trails, ATV trails, specific motorcycle trails. We've worked with some partners to develop some challenging 4-wheel drive trails that go through some of our roads. So we try to cater a little bit to everybody the best we can while we protect other resources.
Mm-hmm. Eric?
What Matt just mentioned with motorcycles, let me give you a brief instance of my background. The adventure bike motorcycling is a growing industry of any industry in motorsports. We're growing 11% a year. What a adventure bike motorcycle means is the motorcycle is specifically designed to go on and off road for long distances. With the partnership with what Daniel Boone's already starting and what's going on in places like McCreary County, that's going to be an easy catch to bring in huge amounts of revenue to our local community. What we do with our motorcycle, what Jeffrey mentioned, we do so much more than this, here's a road, go play. We market, we strategize, and where Backroads is really successful is that myself and my board are motorsport enthusiasts. We are a market. We know how to catch a market because we are a market.
Great, great. Scott?
I think much as Jeffrey said, we'll focus primarily early on motorized. Definitely as we move forward and grow, we'd like to accommodate everyone. But I think that will, the motorized category will be what we focus on to get off the ground.
Do you have, there are a lot of different efforts around eastern Kentucky for ATV trails. Do they talk to each other? Is there a network of those different initiatives?
We've found that they definitely do, and what we have found working throughout the counties that are members of our authority is that a lot of these counties have trail clubs, and that is extremely beneficial to us in doing what we do, because there are so many of those folks that are members of those clubs that already have miles and miles of trails created that they share with us. So it's a very good effort, and those clubs in the counties are very beneficial.
Eric, what kind of correspondence and communication do you have with other trail groups?
Thousands. Okay. You know, that's what we do. We focus on our market and we reach out to them. We start a negotiation, start a talk, invite them up, build an itinerary for them that's mind-boggling. And the most important thing that we're forgetting is, you know, our roads is going to sell itself. Our Appalachian people is going to win it. So, you know, we connect them to the people of the community. my job's done after that.
Okay. Jeffrey, back to you. To what extent has public money been part of your effort, and what extent is private money? How has that worked? I assume you've gotten some of both, right?
We have, and our project was born out of public funds. We were, the initial core study was funded by the federal government, the water resource bill. The trail system opened through a $1.5 million appropriation from our legislature to open up the first 300 miles, and it's been quite a transition. So if you looked at day one, we were fully public funded. We have since transitioned now that we operate off of $4 million worth of permits from our riders coming in and using our system. But an even more important private piece that's come in is the nearly $100 million in private investment put into lodging and resorts and restaurants along our trail system. So I only count lodging because it's something that if you don't have lodging, you don't need it, it's not there. So if you have to have a need, well, there was no need before we were there, so we always count those. We've had over 70 new lodging businesses open up in southern West Virginia. We've had 6 resorts open up that would rival the number of cabins on any state park we have in the state, and all in southern West Virginia and historic coal area. So we still receive some public funding, we still get some appropriations from our legislature, but primarily now we are fully funded by our permit sales, the permits that the folks come in and do. And your towns will enjoy that same thing in B&O taxes and CBB taxes. As you grow that tourism base, it will pay for itself.
So you're generating most of your income yourself?
Yes, we will generate nearly $4.6 million budget this year. We'll generate $3.9 million of that from the riders that come here and pay us to ride the trail system.
Nice. Matt, sticking to this public-private issue, I think of you being in the public sector, but I'm sure you interact with the private sector all the time. To what extent is private investment significant for what you try to accomplish?
It's definitely, it's kind of a weird interaction. So as the federal government, we're not allowed to solicit private funds, right? That's technically illegal. So, but there's lots of opportunities to bring in private funds, but that's mostly through our friends groups and organizations that we work with. So by building relationships with clubs and partners, those folks are able to go after private funds and bring in money that then we can leverage to do other, whether it's grant funding or other fundraising opportunities to accomplish projects. So we can't directly benefit from them, but we definitely have a very close relationship with public funding, or private funding, I should say.
You know, Scott mentioned the local groups that have an idea for trails and all that, and they probably wonder, how in the world do we get started? We don't have any money. Do we go to the courthouse and ask for money? Do we go to the legislature? Scott, how has public money and private money worked in your effort?
Well, obviously we are in our infancy. We really hope to be where Jeffrey is at some point. We are funded by the state legislature at this point, so that's how we're operating currently.
I see. So you've gotten that in past legislative sessions, right?
Correct.
Okay. Does it come through tourism?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Very good. Eric, public money versus private money.
It's always been great to be sustainable on your own feet. That's one thing. It's been a battle for the past 3 years. We have been blessed with some grants that's coming in now, but we have survived on our own 2 feet with the help of certain counties and cities that just to help us, here and there, and wrap cars, things like that. But we depend on our market. We have a little welcome center. Anybody ever seen it in Lynch, Kentucky? It's nothing special, but I'm proud of it. And that little welcome center creates an opportunity for us to hire people in transition and keep them employed. And I am proud to say, for the past 3 years, even though wintertime traffic for motorcycles and sports cars in Eastern Kentucky that's not there, we was able to keep them on the payroll and not lay them off. So Appalachian ingenuity, figured it out. Thank God for consultants that we have now, and thank God for building a base of partnerships to get where we need to be. But public funding is a wonderful thing, but it's also a lot of red tape with that funding. So it's always good to be able to figure out ways to stay on your own 2 feet at the same time.
Yeah. And any of you answer this, well, I'll start with Jeffrey, but then the other 3 chime in. Grants, have you applied for grants. Do you have any suggestions on doing that?
So I'll just go back to the past, because grant cycles change and what's available now. But in the past 36 months, we have received funding from the AML pilot program, which was spoken about earlier, which I was probably one of the happiest people in the audience to hear that's going to go on for another year. We've received money from the Federal Economic Development Administration, and we've received money from the Appalachian Regional Commission, which there's a nice little banner up here. We also, which is a primary funder, and which is a program that is built every mile of the 1,000 miles of Half-Dome Trail, and this exact same money is available in Kentucky, have been awarded grants from the Recreational Trails Program. Every state receives an allocation of money. That money can only be used for trails. Your Kentucky state government has it, and some entity in Kentucky manages it, and with a small 20% community match, your communities can apply for money to build your hiking trail, your biking trail, your ATV trail, or sign your water trail. So every mile of trail we have is built utilizing that grant money. We still to this day make those applications when we go on to either maintain or build the next trail system.
Can I jump in on that real quick? The American Motorcycle Association is your friend for the counties and states. They are headquartered in DC. They fight for rights for not just motorcycles, but all motorsports. And for the recreational, what he's talking about, grants, they're a good person to lean on to get information.
Okay. Matt?
Yeah, so we utilize grants heavily to develop our trails on the Danube National Forest. The allocated funding that we get handed down from Congress doesn't amount to much. It doesn't even pay for my salary when it's all said and done. So the grant, the RTP grant program that Jeffrey just mentioned is hugely important to everything we accomplish on the Daniel Boone. We go after other smaller grants. For the folks focusing on motorized, you know, there's little grants, Yamaha grants and Polaris grants that made, you know, $10,000, $25,000. Those little pieces add up, and you can also leverage those. That can be some of your match for an RTP grant. Without RTP grants, we're not accomplishing near as much on the forest as we are currently. I mean, we pay for contracts, we pay for Conservation Corps crews to come in and help us maintain trails, build reroutes, and do all kinds of work. So the grant funding is hugely important to the trail program, even for the federal government.
Scott?
We actually have just become grant eligible over the last several months, so we have 3 in process currently.
Okay. Now, Scott, are you a 501c3 charitable organization?
Yes.
Eric?
Correct. We have received, thankfully for the USDA, we are now developing and implementing a mobile app with turn-by-turn navigation, highlighting all of our local mom-and-pop businesses. That's going to be out in May. I think that's going to be the game changer for Eastern Kentucky, for our local businesses especially. We have been blessed. We're granted with the AML for our Welcome Center for a little bit of redo to help with the parking lot. And, you know, just fixing it up a little bit more, sprucing up more than we can afford. And we're patiently waiting for ARC with the Inspire. It's illegal now before we can start on another need besides just our trails, our transition employees, which we care very much about.
And Jeffrey, are you a 501c3?
No, we're actually a public corporation, so we're created by the West Virginia legislature for this purpose. West Virginia, we have tons of these. We run everything from turnpikes to PSDs with these public corporations.
And for those of you who are thinking locally about doing something along this line, you don't know how to get started, you know, it's not that hard to set up a charitable 501c3 organization. Get an accountant or an attorney in your county to help you do that. It's not very expensive, and they can file the papers and you can get started and then start applying for grants. Applying for grants can be a little intimidating for any of us who are not in that realm. Where can people get, I understand that ARC will now allow area development districts to apply for grants, is that correct? And they would have some grant writing, I assume, some expertise if a struggling local nonprofit couldn't do it. How do you, Eric, you've applied for grants, is that right?
Yes, sir, we have. And
do you write them out? You send it to...
I have a wonderful woman by the name of Ruthie Caldwell so far. She does the writing, I do the vision and the talking and the pitching. I'm a boy from Eastern Kentucky, Yola, Kentucky, and they don't want to read my writing, you know. It's just the truth though, you know. But, you know, is it easy to start a 501c3? Yeah, you get all this grant money, yeah. You know, you gotta be very careful. You know, you gotta put your people in front of yourself. You gotta be willing to do the work when you get that grant. Getting the grant's the easy part. Doing the grant, keeping it legal, paying your attorneys, working on bridge loans if you can't afford $200,000 to pay at 5% interest. That's the stuff that no one prepares you for, that you really need to start digging into and looking before you go jump in a rabbit hole. And that's where, you know, we kind of jumped in a rabbit hole, and now we're trying to catch up and figure it out.
Jeffrey, you probably have an infrastructure staff-wise to do grant writing, right?
We're a little more self-contained. We have a total workforce of almost 80 folks. We have multiple people just dedicated to that, but at any given time, we'll have anywhere from 15 to 20 open grants. We talked about the AML program. Right now, we have 6 of those that are open that we're working on. 7 recreational trails grants we're working on, so we do that. But the regional planning and development councils, and that's your development districts you were talking about, they are a great resource. Those folks have grant writers. A lot of times you can write their fees, administrative fees, into the grants. And when we got started, when we didn't have this infrastructure, we relied on our cities, our counties, our towns, and our regional planning and development councils to help us write these and administer them, because they had the infrastructure, had the experience, maybe a water and sewer experience, but they had that experience. So, you know, we started small. We started with 5 employees. So we're lucky now to be in-house with that. But for cities, towns, counties, or nonprofits, those regional councils or planning districts are a great resource to write those grants. And a lot of times their fees can be written right into the grant.
Good. So anybody wanting to start an effort like this at the county level could go to their city, their county, and ask for help. But short of that, if that's not, you know, if they just don't get anywhere with that, could go to the ad district in Kentucky's case and ask for help and get guidance there.
One thing that we're not mentioning is that we're sitting here and I see SOAR everywhere. You know, we do have, with thanks to Hal Rogers and all the powers that be that created this, you do have a wealth of knowledge and a group of people that will help you. And also, you know, another one's the best 606 for anyone that we have as tools. For anyone that's trying to do something and make change, there is tools created in Eastern Kentucky that's phenomenal that anywhere else in the United States, what I see, because I look now, you don't have all these tools. Utilize them tools and, you know, get yourself prepared for battle, because that's what it is.
Yeah, yeah. Scott?
Yes, the ad districts have been wonderful for us. Big Sandy assisted us with our 501c3 application. All 3 of the grant applications that we have in process right now are being prepared by the Kentucky River Ad. And I don't know if there's any of them out in the crowd today, but I'm sorry. I know they probably hear from me way more than they want to, so thank you.
Love you, Scott.
They're not too mad at you yet. They're still willing to say hello. Let's get back to the regional theme for just a minute. You've probably all experienced kind of the multi-county thing from your own angle. I know I'm familiar with the effort over near Red River Gorge to create Hollywood. And it originally was a 4-county deal. I think Powell County now, Judge Anderson's here. They've taken that on to expand that ATV park over there. Tell us your views on how important it is to work with multiple counties. It sounds like developing trails is generally bigger than a single county effort. Jeffrey, let's start with you.
So our project was born out of the region. You know, it was looking at southern West Virginia, and for us it's critical. One of the biggest problems we had in southern West Virginia was everything we did in a silos. We worried about our city, we worried about our town, we worried about our county, and we could never seem to get together on anything. And when the legislature created our authority, it was very purposeful and giving the smallest counties and the largest county the same say on the board of directors of the authority. And the ideal was to use these trails to interconnect all these cities and towns and counties that really didn't interact that much together. And we were the first true regional project in southern West Virginia. In fact, I can't think of another one outside of our planning districts that cross county lines. Our project has done more to bring those cities, towns, and counties together in a single effort. When we go to the legislature, they're all there with us, asking for money, wanting to support the trails. Some of the counties don't have trails yet. They're still at the table saying, we want that, and the other counties are cheerleading them on. If you're not working regionally, you're really selling yourself short. And for us, it is the only reason our project exists, because our trails go back and forth across county lines. There's no way to develop a 1,000-mile trail network without interconnecting cities, counties, and towns from lots of different areas.
What you just said not only described how you started, but it sounded almost like a commercial for SOAR. I mean, that's exactly what SOAR is meant to be and can be and is becoming with meetings like this. So that's terrific. Now, do you still encounter the provincialism or the turf protection, whatever name you want to apply to it? Do you encounter that, Jeffrey? How do you work through that?
We absolutely do, and it never ends, because if I'm the mayor of this town, I think it's great what you're doing everywhere else, but guess what? I get elected by the people that live in this town. And what we've done to build past that is actually to go into those communities, hold community meetings, explain to them how they fit into the bigger system, that, that we're only halfway done with our project. So imagine having a job where 21 years into your job, you've only made it to half the places you said you were going to make it to. And these other people have had to show up for 21 years to meetings to sit at a table where they're not enjoying the benefits of what you're doing. And I think it's a testament to regionalism that we've got counties like Boone County, West Virginia, that for 21 years just come to meetings. We'll be at our next meeting and says, we know we're going to be next, we know we're going to be in the future, we're going to keep supporting this. And it is that, and bless you guys for SOAR. You're way ahead of a lot of folks with that. I mean, it's just absolutely, to see this many people here, it's humbling to us, because it's taken us a long time to not even get where you're at right now with this type of camp.
Well, your organization and SOAR help us all see the bigger picture. And hopefully that's what we can see bigger results, bigger projects, because we're seeing a bigger picture. Eric?
Well, this is the difference that I see in Eastern Kentucky in the past 10 years of change. Other counties didn't talk to other counties, really. They were politicians and their government. Everybody was on for their own. When you can grade a rally car race on Little Shepherd's Trail, and next thing you know, you've got two county judges taking photos together, working together. They might not like it at first, but then they start talking about, hey, we're overcrowded at this jail. Can we move on there? It starts partnerships. And back rows, if nothing else that I'm proud of, which I'm proud of a lot, but this was right here, is that I have not been to a county judge in a region, a mayor in a region, magistrate in a region, that didn't look at us, sit down and talk to us, and let us explain how, motorsports in general can benefit you and your people. And the next session we have a young lady that I call her cheerleader that took a chance, opened up a general store through a pandemic in Letcher County, Kentucky. Now she has 23 employees. She had to move once to their new location. But that, if you don't see, as counties don't see her, because she's all over social media about her expansion. Talk about trails and motorsports. She's a shining star for an advocate for trail tourism.
Great. Matt, you are inherently regional because your mission is a region. How do you deal with, I assume you still experience some of the provincialism and turf protection of people living in their own silos or their own county and not wanting to reach across the county line?
Yeah, I've seen good projects and proposals die because of that, because county judge executives couldn't get on the same page with one another. You have to understand, when you're working with the federal government, we kind of ask a lot of our partners and our counties to really bring forth a good project for us, because we don't have the capacity to do a lot of the legwork for you to sort of see the vision and make the project happen. So when you've got counties that aren't even on the same page on what that vision is, we kind of raise our hands and go, well, I'm not sure what we can do with you. Until you guys decide what path you want to move forward, we can't really evaluate your proposal. So I definitely see, I agree with Scott that in the 7 years that I've been here, I've seen some of those walls break down and some counties starting to work together. Hollerwood's a good example where, hey, this this can help everybody out if we work together instead of just focusing on our own little piece of the pie.
Yeah, I've been involved with a little project over at Red River Gorge, and the 4 county judges have been terrific. And the fact that they have a tremendous tourism asset, the Red River Gorge, internationally known, and that's pulled them together with the private community to work on some bigger goals. So, yeah, Scott.
Well, I have barely been in this position for a year now, so to be quite honest, I haven't encountered a lot of those issues. What I will say is the most rewarding part of this project to this point has been seeing the erasing of county lines, the regionalism, the bipartisan effort that it took to create our authority. So that has been, that's just been very exciting for me.
Now, Jeffrey said it took him 21 years. Are you willing to come back here 21 years from now and report on your progress?
I hope I can come back here in
Colby, let's look at 21 years from now. Colby's young enough to be here 21 years from now. Some of us maybe don't share that fate, but that's terrific. I have another question here about trail towns. Sometimes you drive along the highway, you see somebody's been designated as a trail town. Have any of you experienced that? What's involved? Jeffrey?
I'll start with that. We consider all the towns we are connected to trail towns, and this is something that we have to work on in southern West Virginia, eastern Kentucky, southwest Virginia. When you go out through the eastern United States, you do see these trail towns. Entire communities build up around hiking trails, biking trails, equestrian trails, water trails. With us, it's going to be ATV trails. And really what it is an identity. It's that community making its identity to be a place tourists want to come. It's the shops on Main Street, like the general store you're talking about. It's the bike shops, it's the ATV repair shops, the ATV rental businesses. And one of the things that we miss in the trail community, and it was in Alabama 4 years ago, speaking to their conference about trails, and one of the things I focused on is trails are an economic development project. And we never think of them that way, but we have to think of them that way. These trail towns, they're economic development projects for the entire town. And once we start thinking of these trails as economic development projects, and we start painting them in a different light, that it's going to drive our economy, we also start looking at them as a place that people come and open up businesses, not just a place to go recreate. I tell folks all the time, our Hatfield-McCoy trail system was never developed so that people in southern West Virginia could go out and ride their ATVs. They were doing that every day without any help from me and didn't need a map. This project was developed to diversify the economy, to create those trail towns you're talking about, to create communities whose focus was not coal, timber, or gas, but their focus was tourism. And those trail towns are critical to that. There's tons of literature on it, there's tons of examples, but it's something we do need to work on and create these communities that are focal around trails.
Great, great. Any of the others of you had experience with trail towns? Scott, you?
We do have several of our counties that are members. The county seats they do enjoy the trail town designation, and that's a different level of access for the trail users and promotion. I think it's a great thing.
Eric?
Trail towns are an amazing thing because it plants a seed of something different than you got to make people realize the local community. It's a buy-in. You know, one thing that I heard earlier, and one somebody said was Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg. Each in their own on their opinion on that. I never want to see where I'm from with nothing but red lights and gimmicks. I want to see mom and pop places, local Kentuckians, surviving and thriving from the impact of dollars coming to them. And, you know, I have an engineering kind of background, so I think a little different. Probably these gentlemen, probably wrong, but that's how I think. Schematics, anybody know what a schematic is? You know, I make my trails and work with trails, and we develop our trails in our counties is real simple. We create a schematic, funnel. I'm funneling and attracting as many as I can possibly throughout to go in a rural area with no traffic, no people, to get them hungry, to get them thirsty, to get them tired. Where I want them to land there, where they're going to stop and get that burger, that barbecue, or that taco, or, you know, my favorite, bologna, but, you know, each their own on that too. But, you know, when these people are out enjoying in a spirited manner, spirited lifestyle, they feel free. If you start thinking about a motorcycle and what that stands for, it's a status, freedom, American way, you know, and to get them to that manner with that suit and ties off of Monday through Friday, and now they're showing their little cross tattoo they got back to college, and they're out to spend their money in a spirited way. There's nothing better for our local communities.
Yeah, good. Matt?
Yeah, I just want to add on the trail towns, you know, trail town designation, that's not the end game, right? There's so much more that goes into it. It's not just the trail. And just by having that trail town designation doesn't suddenly make you a successful trail town. There's a lot more that goes into it beyond just the trails and just the designation. It is those little mom and pop stops. It's the lodging. It's something, the trail town designation and the trail draws people in, but then you want them to experience the local town feel, and that's what really gets people talking and really starts to snowball. So just want to keep that in mind.
Real quick, one of my mentors, which, you know, I've been doing this for a long time, I took a lot of advice, a lot of good and bad advice from a lot of people, but one of my mentors is Mr. Tony Tackett, Pikeville Tourism. To be successful tourism destination, you need 3 key components. Everybody want to repeat after me so you'll remember it. Ready? Heads to bed, say it.
Heads to bed.
Food to mouth.
Food to mouth.
Lips to sip.
Lips
If
to
you got
sip.
them 3 things in your community, you are steps ahead ready to be successful.
That sounds like the motto. We should have had that as
That's
a motto of this
you need to call it Mr. Tony Tackett motto.
All right. We're about out of time, so I want to ask each one of you a parting thought. Anything you want to add about the discussion of trails to encourage this audience today? Eric, you want to start? You just gave us our motto.
You know, it's encouraging for someone like myself from Yola, Kentucky that never thought he would be doing this. I figured I'd be underground in a coal mine somewhere. You know, that's what I had for hope growing up. To be able to sit with these gentlemen and see people in the back, Miss Karen Kelly, you know, and just have a conversation, it's amazing. But for Jeffrey to come down from West Virginia, folks, it shows that there's a change as well. I see what he's doing with Virginia and the Spirit Trail system. They're working together. You know, it's time for Kentucky to really realize that, take a piece of the pie as well, and work together instead of against.
Great, excellent. Matt?
Yeah, I just want to say that, you know, people tend to be scared to work with the federal government, or sometimes they give up before they even try to work with us because they hear it's hard. And I'm not going to say that it's easy to work with us, but the reality is we have some different things that we've got to deal with that local, state, and county governments don't have to. It's just the rules and the regulations that we have to follow, laws and regulations we have to follow. But that's not to say it can't be done. You just have to have a little bit of a longer game in mind and have a vision of what you want and be willing to put in a little time and effort to work with your local Forest Service districts or, you know, any government for that matter. But it can be done. There's tons of success stories out there. So just don't be afraid to come to the Forest Service or to the district office and start that conversation, knowing that it may take longer than you want it to, but you can still get a really good outcome if you work at it.
Matt, you represent a tremendous asset for this state and certainly for tourism, for Eastern Kentucky region. We really appreciate you being on the panel today. Thank you. Jeffrey?
So we do have a lot in common, and as much as I hate to admit it, Eric, I've got a technical background and I love fried bologna sandwiches. So apparently West Virginia, Southern West Virginia and Eastern Kentucky have a lot in common, at least for that. But for folks here, you have to have every resource made available to you. And I had lunch today with your state Small Business Development Center Director, Christina Joyce, and she's up next. And that's probably one of the best at her job in the state. That's another resource, along with the regional councils, along with the grants. Tap every resource available to you, and don't be afraid to ask for help. I can't imagine how many times in my life I put my hat in my hand to go in to get a no, and sometimes you get a yes. And it's those yeses that are going to make you successful, so you can't be afraid to ask for help.
Well, thank you for being willing to come over here and share your story with us, because it's inspiring to us, and we're going to try to emulate what you've accomplished. So thank you for coming today. Scott, last word.
Well, I've learned over the last 5 minutes that I feel like I want a bologna sandwich now. So, but no, I want to just touch on what Jeffrey said earlier. This is definitely an economic development project. We feel that this is a very important piece of the puzzle in rebuilding our economy in Eastern Kentucky.
Let's give these folks a round of applause.
hear some amazing stuff. Come on. Come on. Drag the rest of them in here. We're not done. All right.
Yeah. Well, you know, my friend
Let's see, a few more people come in. Okay, this is what we're going to do. Before we get started, and before I tell you who I am, and who these wonderful people are up here on our panel, I got to ask a question. How many people in this room go to small businesses at least once a week? Raise your hand. What? Probably every single day. Some of you all out there know me, and I'll tell the others who I am in just a minute. Small business is big business in Kentucky, especially in eastern Kentucky, right? Exactly. Well, I'm Christina Joyce. I am the State Director for the Kentucky Small Business Development Center, or the SBDC as we like to call it. I hope that some of you all had the chance today and yesterday to hear some of our folks speak. JC did a great job, Valerie, and we've got Rodney and Michelle, and I think Rachel's here, and Tony, and anyway, we have a lot of people here from the SBDC, and we love our small businesses. As the last panel was talking about trails, I'm an Appalachian girl, and I used to work with Jeff Lusk at Half Cord Trail System. And the one thing that they needed so much were, they had too many heads and not too many beds when they first started. Small businesses in our small communities are the lifeblood. That's what will raise Appalachia up, our small businesses and entrepreneurs. And here today, you have heard so much about collaborative efforts, about working together, about no one can do it by themselves, right? And so at the Kentucky SBDC, we want to thank SOAR for this amazing summit. I'm not going to call it mini, unlike everybody else. I think it's a mega summit by this point in time. So we love to be collaborative with others in our community. And that's the only way that we can get by, right? With a little help from our friends. Boy, that dates me, doesn't it? So anyway, thank you for sticking around for the very best one of the day. I want to also, I have to say a shout out, as everyone else has, about this beautiful venue, Paramount. I mean, it's just incredible. And the city of Ashland. I was born and raised in Huntington, West Virginia, so Ashland was our sister city. I had tons of friends in Ashland, and I used to exhibit artwork here in Ashland. I love Ashland, Kentucky. So thank you to Ashland and to Paramount and to SOAR and all the fun folks that made this mega summit happen. So today, you all are the lucky ones because we've got 3 entrepreneurs here that are fantastic. And they've got a fantastic story to share with you. And this is the lifeblood of our small communities, are these types of businesses. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to introduce each one of them and just say what their business is. And then they're going to go through and they're going to tell their story. Our theme is around how your thriving small businesses can bring tourists to communities and give them a reason to come back. In the theater, and we are in a theater, it's all about the callback, right? You might have somebody wander in your business once, but it's all about the callback. So these businesses are thriving, they're successful, and we're going to hear their special stories today. So I am so honored to introduce to you today, we have Jason Camp from Camp Landing Entertainment District. Say hi, y'all. We have Tiffany Scott, the general store at Town Mountain Crossing. And then last but not least, we've got Dustin Cornett, Cornett, Dustin Cornett. And he is the Chocolate Inn and Cafe. And if you're like me, I'm an admitted chocoholic. I must go and stay. I might not be able to leave. But anyway, now we're going to go down through, and you've heard about our theme, okay? And I started my first business at the age of 23, and I've had 5 companies. So I know, and I've worked with entrepreneurs for over 30 years now. Yeah, I'm old. Anyway, I know when you ask an entrepreneur, tell your story. Tell us, how did you get started? Usually you just say that and you step back. But I'd also like for you all to say, who kind of helped you along the way? We have so many city and county and state leaders in the audience. You know, tell us who you worked with. Did you use any resources? Because we all want to know how you got to where you got to. And also, if you want to kick in, what do you need to thrive in the future? So let's start with Jason.
Hi, I'm Jason Camp. Not a native Kentuckian. I wish I was. I actually was born and raised in Florida. And my wife and I moved our family up here 4 years ago. So we came up here, we opened a few restaurants, one the Winchester across the street that some of you might have visited in the last day or two. The Steak, Seafood, and Bourbon Bar over there. And then down the street, on the other side of the county, we've got Smokin' Jay's Ribbon Brew House. And moved up here really because it's a great community for family and faith, and the Appalachian area is, to me, paradise. We moved up from Naples, Florida, so we get weird looks when we tell everybody, and you know, we moved from Naples, Florida to here, but we believe this is true paradise. You know, just to raise our family, we've got 5 kids, and you know, I think a lot of people in town or even in Eastern Kentucky, you know, it really gets a bad rap, but I see it through different eyes, and I just see how special this place is, including, you know, the building we're in right now. The very first visit we came up here, and the Ashland Alliance actually took us around to see, you know, what was happening in town and the beautiful river and what they were going to do in rebuilding Ashland and you know, revitalizing it, and you know, where we could do a restaurant right here in the hotel that was being remodeled. And we came into here, and you know, I remember that day I called my mom and I said, you can't believe this Paramount Theater they got down there. You know, it's like things like this we didn't have growing up, and it's just the history, the trails, the nature, everything around here is just a straight, I mean, it's straight out of a fairy tale to really raise kids. And I think sometimes people are too close to it and they don't see it as special as it is, and we're just trying to do our small part for community and build quality of life and give back where we can. So we came up here, we opened a few restaurants, and I've got, I had 17 years of professional sports back in the day in different leagues, and one thing that I always saw was lacking here in town was we didn't have enough sports facility space, not enough court space, basketball, wrestling, volleyball. It was a real need here. So with my wife and I, we prayed about it, and you know, I was always looking for a spot that would be a good place to build a sports complex. And dealing with the county of Judge Chaney was up here earlier, and TJ Morrison, who was the executive economic development director at that time, we would talk about different spots, and they would keep going back to this dead mall, the Cuyahoga Mall. And I'm like, there's no way in heck that I want to buy a dead mall. It really has no appeal to me whatsoever. But, you know, they kept hammering it and kept looking at it and, you know, came up with an idea, well, why don't we just change it? Why don't we revitalize it like Ashland's doing with downtown and make it something completely different? And we really started looking at it from a different side and say, it would be a great place for a sports complex. Here's what we can do with the old Sears and make it a convention center. What other businesses can we have come into town and really make this a center point of a destination? And that's where it all started. And, you know, there was multiple pieces that we had to put together. And, you know, it's kind of like, you know, a village to raise a kid. It was a village to really get this project done with Kentucky Farmers Bank with the financing and, you know, some investor partners that we had and the county and the community and some states, and we got some grants, and we were able to secure Malibu Jacks to a long-term lease, and all of those things fell into place of just putting this jigsaw puzzle together. And then we pulled the trigger and we purchased them all, and here we are. It hasn't even been 8 months, and Malibu Jacks did a $7 million remodeling in there. It opened December 18th. My wife and I remodeled the movie theater, and that opened on August 6th. We got a couple of bars and restaurants opening. We got an axe throwing bar going in there. We got a hotel that's going to be built. The sports complex is coming at the end of this year. It's all coming together, and again, just to give back quality of life, something to do, and a destination where somebody can come in and, for a travel tournament for basketball or wrestling or volleyball, and basically come up there on Thursday or Friday, stay all week, eating at a different restaurant every night, and really make this as a center point for Eastern Kentucky.
Well, and I'd like to add too that, so it's great for the community, but again, we're talking about the trails, we're talking about Hatfield Trails, and when I used to work with Jeff, and one of my statistics was that everybody from every single state in the union had visited the trail system, and over 11 countries. So you never know who's coming through your town, and you never know who's going to stop into small business. And if you've done any traveling, when you go places, you go to those places because you want local color, you want local food. I told you, I'm an Appalachian girl. People come to Appalachia, they want what we have. They want a little bit of our secret. I mean, here's proof positive. He came from Florida, and he's here. And we're so glad that you did come here. But people want to know who and what we are. They want our art, our crafts, our food, our accents. They want it all. Who in the world goes to Paris, France and wants to eat at McDonald's? Not me, man. So anyway, we're so glad that you adopted Kentucky as your home, and so glad that you started your business. Awesome story. Thank you. All right, Tiffany, you're up.
They gave me 2 mics, so I guess I'm really... my name's Tiffany Scott, and I am from Letcher County, Kentucky. I've been born and raised there my entire life. And if you would have told me a year ago, if you would have told me 6 months ago that I would be sitting on this stage talking to you folks, sitting between these 2 guys, talking about what it's like to open a business and try to be a driving force in tourism, I would have laughed in your face. I've got about 20 years experience in higher education and marketing. That was always my niche. My last job I had outside of my store was for the University of Kentucky. My husband also works for the University of Kentucky. And our story began during COVID. We were all at home. We had, UK had made the decision for everybody who possibly could to work from home. And so we've been sitting home since about March 2020. And there was this little grocery store / deli that was right across from where we lived at that had been around since the 70s. And this was, the gentleman I've known my entire life. We would go there and get gas for lawnmowers and motorcycles and four-wheelers, and he would cut a little bit of meat, make a few sandwiches, had milk and bread. Sometimes she wasn't for sure if it was in date. Sometimes she wasn't for sure if it was going to be there. But nonetheless, he got sick and had to move to Louisville and to get treatment with his daughter. And he had decided to close his little store. And we were just all so sad. We just didn't want to see this little store close down. And it was the true epitome of a small country store. It was attached to the post office. Prior to the post office building on the little addition, the post office was inside this building. And so he used to be the postmaster, and his wife ran the store. So there's a lot of history there. We just didn't want to see it close. And so me and my husband, being in our COVID state of mind, we're all quarantined at home and we can do all these great things. We said, hey, let's open a store. And that is where our journey began. In January of 2021, we decided to reopen this little store, and we decided that we would call it the General Store at Creek Crossing. Now, as you know now, that's not the name of my current business. We opened in January of 2021 with the idea that we would, in my husband's words, cut a little meat, make a few sandwiches, that'd be that. But we also knew that there was no way that was going to be something sustainable. We had no intentions of giving up our good paying full-time jobs at UK that would cover my daughter's college education. Had no intentions of doing that. We want to do this as more a community service. We just didn't want to see another dilapidated building in our community. And so we opened their doors. And, I think Eric was out here talking about me during his time. We've known Eric for years, another Letcher County guy. And we knew what he was doing with the motorcycle groups. We knew the folks that was coming in. And so we said, hey, if we're going to do this, let's not just repeat the past. Let's take a new spin on this, and let's really focus on making somewhere different. We want to still have the milk and bread from when it snows in Kentucky, that the locals can come out to make their milk sandwiches. But we also wanted to have something different. We wanted to be able to focus on what makes Kentucky unique, what makes Appalachia special. And you're exactly right. I think people want that authenticity of the mountain people. They want our good food. These folks didn't just want sandwiches, they wanted Tiffany's meatloaf. They wanted my soup, beans, and cornbread. They wanted to try some things different. And I got real tickled at the guys earlier talking about bologna sandwiches. That's one of our signature items. We call it the coal miner's daughter at the general store. And we have sold, I actually just ran a report sitting in the back. Since we opened our doors, we have made, right at close to 1,000 more than 1,000 fried bologna sandwiches since we've opened the coal miner's daughter. So that's one of our big sellers is the fried bologna sandwich. So we wanted to keep the essence of the little deli. We wanted to keep those type of things, but we also wanted to reach out to local farmers to be able to carry their local produce. We didn't want to travel outside the state to get those items. We wanted to work with folks growing it there locally, that when they had an abundance, that when they couldn't put it away or use it, that we could purchase it from those local growers and resell in their store. We had a little bakery that we put in and sold cupcakes and fudge and different things. But we reached out to local crafters and artisans, and we really developed this idea of almost like a little destination in itself. And that's where it really took off. And so we were just ecstatic of what we were doing, but when Eric started bringing these motorcycle groups in, my little store that was about the stage, we were out of space. We outgrew our space in about 3 months. And at that point, Letcher County, the judge executive called me and he came over and he said, hey, I've got an idea. He said, you're out of room. We love what you're doing, but you're outgrown yourself in 3 months. And so the county made us a deal. He said, we've got a building that's kind of fallen in. It's got some work needs to be done, but we're willing to make you a killer deal on it if you're willing to renovate it. And so thanks to Letcher County Fiscal Court, we were able to secure a building actually situated directly on Pine Mountain, which is a beautiful location. We are right next to the cutoff to go to Bad Branch Falls and all the overlooks. And so we have recently moved, and so we are now the general store at Pine Mountain Crossing. The creek's no longer there, so we're on the mountain. And so we have opened our doors there in October, and we've got a dining hall where folks can come in and eat. We've turned that room into a community room where we can have community workshops and classes and activities for kids. So all kinds of different things going on there. But we've got big plans. But all that was made possible from the tourism aspect, by us just having the idea, hey, let's not just do what's been done before, but let's take it to another level. So that's really opened the doors for us, and that's kind of where our story begins.
Well, you and I backstage, we were talking a little bit, and I think you kind of have a report on some fudge.
Yeah, a few of the things we sell, that some of our big sellers, I ran a report just earlier today, and we've been open. I'm a newborn compared to this guy who's got multiple restaurants, and this guy's been going for quite a long time too. We've only been open about a year and about 3 months, but in the last year, I just ran some numbers. One of our biggest sellers is our cookies. We've sold over 15,000 cookies in the last year. We have sold, I already told you, over 1,000 coal miner's daughter fried bologna sandwiches. And we have sold over half a ton of our Kentucky handmade fudge. Fudge is another big thing. We have another big thing for us is chicken salad. We have sold 812 pounds of homemade chicken salad, in addition to over 1,300 chicken salad sandwiches. So, and we're doing this, folks. I guess, if I think about what I want to say to folks, or what I want to tell you guys, or tell my family and friends back home, is I'm doing this on 2 residential stoves. I don't have a commercial kitchen. I've got 2 stoves that's like the stoves that's sitting in your house. It's possible. It's possible if you dream a little bit. Now I'm looking at investing in a commercial kitchen, but it's possible, folks. It's possible to just start small and just start out with that dream and just see where it takes you.
Awesome, thank you. All right, Dustin. tell us the chocolate story.
Hello, thanks for having me here. This is an amazing place. It's really cool. So our journey is quite a journey. It sent me to Japan even. So I'm born and raised in Pikeville in Lee County. Ended up in Japan where I met my wife and decided we need to move to America. So the natural landing spot was my hometown. I never really anticipated doing anything in Pikeville, but my wife fell in love with the town and decided that she wanted to do something there. So that was quite the curveball. My perception had changed about the area since growing up there to then, because I saw so much potential in tourism. So I thought we could make this happen, but really how could we do that? So we kind of had a humble beginning. We tried to do many things, and we were living at a Bible camp when this old motel came on the market. The motel came with a house, and that was really appealing to us since we didn't have one. So we thought, let's try to make this happen. But they don't really give loans to people that don't have assets and jobs set. So we really had to fight for the opportunity, and thankfully we found a bank that took a chance on us. And then it was just hit the ground and go. So we had been able to open a little cafe we were running as a co-op, and then try to renovate the motel into our vision of a bed and breakfast inn. So basically my days were wake up, go to this little cafe, get my wife started on donuts and things for that, go back to the inn, meet with the contractors, go over the plan on how to continue that, then go to my job where I got like $10 an hour and then go do that. When it was over at 5, I'd go back to the cafe, close up at 6, make sure everything was ready for the next day, go back to the house, next to the inn, close up everything there, see the reports, go to bed, do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. 2.5 years of renovating. Finally, we opened in September of 2017 with 6 of our rooms in our cafe, with another year or so left of needing to renovate, which we were able to do through growing our business. So it was being able to reinvest in ourselves and see our vision and continue that way. So around 2019, we finally finished the renovations of all 8 rooms. The 8 rooms are all individually themed, named after countries that I've been lucky enough to travel to. Try to bring everything back personally to what we're doing. And we have the cafe going fully as well, where we roast our own coffee, we make our own chocolate from the bean, and my wife does the pastries. Occasionally we'll do lunch and a chicken salad, but not as much as you. It's a lot of chicken salad. So it's basically having an idea and running with it. I never envisioned being an entrepreneur or even having my own business. I grew up with my parents having their own business and always bickering about money, and then saw my brothers being self-employed, and it just seemed very unstable. But something grew inside me where I just had to do something myself, and I do it for happiness. I know I have to make money to make it sustainable, but I really just do it to be happy. I'm making chocolate, and I get to meet people from all over and host them, and have all these experiences. And when people come to the cafe, I'm making coffee for them, and I'm able to create these relationships with people, and that's just really cool. And I don't really see it as a job, but kind of just something that makes me happy, and I want to do it. So I think not looking at things just as doing them for money, or we're going to profit so much out of this, of just doing it for your life, because we only get one life. We should do what we want to do with it and try to make the most out of it. And in that case, that's where I'm going. And I've been able to move forward with chocolate. I've worked with the Small Business Association to do certain things. With a craft chocolate challenge that we had, it's an international bean to bar craft chocolate challenge where chocolate makers from all over the world sent us our bars, and we judged them and had this huge contest, and first of its kind in Kentucky. We're doing it in little Pikeville, and it's really interesting to have a desire to do something and just get it done. So that's what kind of I'm about in doing what I'm doing. and hopefully we're making a big impact. I think we've made some, positive, changes in our area, and we really hope to do more of that as well. Our area is a place that can really grow through tourism and just being unique and getting people to come there and see the natural beauty and understand that, you have this here. I mean, just coming here, I took a different scenic route where I went through the Nada Tunnel, and I was on all these curvy roads, and it's still kind of winter. It isn't really in its beautiful nature scene out there yet, but it was amazing. It's like, this is my backyard. I was like, this is where everybody should want to be. And growing up in Eastern Kentucky, I really never had that perception until I moved away, and I got to talk with people outside of that world and be able to see where I'm from and really appreciate where I am from. And like Jason mentioned, it's like our paradise, and it's basically a secret, so don't tell everybody.
That is awesome.
Sorry, I kind of rambled a lot.
No, that was perfection. That was perfect. Thank you so much. In all the years I've worked with entrepreneurs, been honored to work with entrepreneurs, there are always these running themes. And the running themes are, they want to have fun at what they're doing. You've got to love what you're doing. I used to work 24/7 in my sign company, and I loved every minute of it. I miss it to this day. But they love what they're doing. They always want to give back to the community. Always, always, always. And they're always very generous with their time to help others to, explore those possibilities. So I'm going to ask one last question because we're wrapping it up. I know everybody out there is probably a little hungry, but so what do you have to say to this audience of community leaders, community giver-backers, if that's a word? Everybody in this room has a love for tourism, and I want to say creative economy too, because those who know me, I think those two go hand in glove. We understand how important tourism is. By virtue of look what we've been talking about. So we've been talking about working together, about breaking down silos. None of us are as successful as all of us. So you've got this platform today as successful small business owners that did it from the ground up. What would you tell your local community leaders? What do you need? What do people like you, future people like you, need to be successful?
I guess I'll go first. Well, it seems like it's a recurring theme today that I've heard a lot from panels to different speakers and all that. It's all about building each other up, right? I mean, this entire community, and I will say it's not only building each other up, it's building local. So, and everybody, everybody can raise their hand, what are you doing here, what are you doing there? And, not to downgrade anybody, but how many corporations are here? There's not national chains here. We're all local businesses. All local business need to band together and be a part of a positive change. We're the ones with our kids going to school right next to your kids. We're the ones who are actually giving back to the community more than anybody else. Volunteer hours, all those kind of things. And listen, we all need national change, and they're great, and they're a little comfort, right? But it's about us building each other up, neighbor to neighbor, business to business, who we are on the block. When my wife and I go out to eat, we try to go to local people, and they're not competitors, they're friends. They're other people that we need to build this community around. And I think another thing that, what we're trying to do at Camp Landing is, I mentioned it in some of the other, talks that I've done, I hate the city lines and the county lines. Where my opportunity is in Ohio and West Virginia. I'm trying to get those people over here to spend money in Kentucky. That's where we should be looking. How as Kentuckians can we band together and get people into our destination to go down to the river and see a concert, come into this building, go out to Camp Landing, go to Rush Off Road. Rush Off Road is like one of the, top 10 ATV parks in the nation, and it's right here in Boyd County, but nobody ever talks about it. But I talk about it because it's awesome for all of us, for the city, for all the hotels, for all the restaurants. So I'm just not only banding together, building each other up, but keeping it as local as you can.
I call that brand ambassadors. Each one of us, we are a brand ambassador. And if you have any employees, that's how you train them. They are the brand. You know, you never know who's gonna walk in, so you gotta be ultimate in customer service, right? You've got to be the brand. Go ahead, Tiffany.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. That's one of the biggest things. You know, as a small business, we have 24 employees. I have 24 part-time people. I can't afford to do full-time. You know, I can't afford the benefits and the insurance, but I have 24 folks who work for me, a cross-generational team. I've got high school students, I've got college kids, I've got retired school teachers. So we have a large mix of folks who work for us, and that's one of the main things that we tell them is that hospitality, that speaking to them, that creating that brand of who we want to be and who we want people to recognize us as when they come in our doors. You know, everybody is spoken to when they come to the general store. If somebody's on the phone, they get a wave, they get some type of, you know, acknowledgement that they're there. You know, the gentleman who was talking earlier about the international travel, that's huge too, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. Since we put our guest book out, we've had 5 countries be at the general store. 5. And you know, that also has a big piece of the other local businesses, because now with what we offer at the store, we've become this hub of, you know, if you're in the area and you want to take something back from Kentucky, you gotta go to the general store. So we are having the local mine industry. When they bring folks in from Denmark, and they bring folks in from Sweden to tour their mines, they're bringing them to the general store. I've got the health department that's bringing a group from Europe Thursday because they want to have these items to take back. So I think, you know, making sure that the other businesses, the other industries in your communities know what you have to offer. You know, when you talk about Airbnbs and we talk about local hotels, you know, another thing that we're doing is we're working with that sector so that we can provide grocery delivery. Before those folks come into their Airbnb, they may get in the middle of the night, but they don't have time to go to the local grocery store. In their area, the grocery store's closed. So we will stock their fridge for them. You know, we're working right now in our communities in Letcher County. Where I'm located at is I'm right on the border of Farland and Letcher County. I'm actually the only business on the Cumberland River side of Pine Mountain in Letcher County. So we're working kind of as a liaison in between the Tri-Cities, Cumberland, Benham, and Lynch, as well as Whitesburg. And so we're kind of creating our own consortium of small business owners to get our ideas together, because, you know, as we work to make a destination for tourists, when you're trying to think of what can bring people to the community, you know, it's not a one and done. You were talking about callbacks. But, you know, if we don't market each other, if we don't tell them about the little coffee shop down the road, or we don't tell them about the cool t-shirt stand, you know, who's going to? And so we're working on some cross-marketing materials that focus on all of us. And I think that's another thing that you guys can do, that you can take back as tourism directors and Main Street workers and those things, is get your small business folks together. And if you don't have, you know, an official or a group that's doing that, have a dinner once a month, rotate to the different small businesses, get us together to talk, because we like to talk and we like to rant. And trust us, we can tell you what we need. You know, we can tell you all day long what we need from you or what we're lacking, and we just sometimes we need a shoulder to cry on, you know, and you got solutions that we have problems for, you know, and we just may not know about them. So that's a big thing. You know, in our community, I'm a Hallmark Christmas movie fan. You know, in my mind, you know, when it gets October 1st, Hallmark's on at my house. And so that was my whole idea for our businesses. I wanted to go cross between Hallmark Christmas movie meets Coal Miner's Daughter.
I love it.
And that's what we've done, you know. And I am truly a coal miner's daughter, and my dad was underground for 39 years, so you know that's me, and that's what we tried to create. But in the meantime of what we need from them, we need to know what you need from us. You know, it was just like as we work with Eric and the groups that are coming in to bring motorsport tourism, I had to sit down with him and I said, what do you need? What do these folks want when they come here? You know, when you're thinking about motorcycles, they gotta have things that can go in a saddlebag. You know, they can't take 45 bags with them. They've gotta have small things. They had to have box lunches, and they had to have, you know, certain things that maybe I didn't know about, but we found them. You know, we can meet those needs if we know what we're doing, and what they need. So I think that's a big thing, is just communication.
Excellent, thanks. Dustin?
Yeah, so everything they both said, pretty much. I would just add that my town's really small. So I think being able to grow from within, asking local leaders and groups and everything there, if you're asking us what we would want them to do, would basically, you know, be a champion for us, be our cheerleader. So take that and like, this is Beattyville and Lee County, have them just talk so much about us, and that go over to maybe the Red River Gorge, and you get into Wolf County and Powell County, then they know about us, and they know all the cool things that we're doing, and make it really inviting and something they want to talk about. So then they champion for us too, and then that expands, and then now we're talking about, hey, they're selling chocolate maybe in Winchester or Lexington, or you're expanding into more of eastern Kentucky towards Pikeville. So just being able to expand out like that by supporting each other and then understanding that it's complementing each other as well, because we're all growing together, and it all points the finger back to where it began, which is your place, so you need to be proud of it. So that would be something I would say in addition to everything they said, because everything they said was pretty much perfect. So
I'm so glad that everything that you all said, I love the word cross-pollination, because when folks cross-pollinate skills, talents, stories, experiences, what happens? All of us get bigger, and we get bigger. That's one thing I think I've seen some of my coaches in the audience, that's what I say all the time, we got to cross-pollinate skills and talents, so there are no borders. I love when you said, you know, kind of blur those borders a little bit, because the world doesn't stop right there. So we're all one, and the more we work collectively together and complement each other and help to share those stories throughout, we'll all rise up. I mean, we'll all benefit. And you know what? The future generations will benefit as well. So I've been so honored to be here today, to get to meet you guys, to hear your stories. Again, SOAR, thank you so much. This has just been so wonderful. I've got to thank my staff from the Kentucky SBDC because they're awesome. And there's JC taking a picture. But anyway, thank you all too for staying and hearing these wonderful stories. And don't forget, small business is big business in Kentucky, and especially in Appalachia. So thank you to the panelists. Let's thank them. So I think we're pretty good. You want to come on in? I think you're going to wrap it up, right? Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you so much to that last panel. So great to have. I'll be 30 seconds longer here to kind of wrap this up. Just one final thank you to everybody for showing up. The full building happens because you come physically, and so obviously none of this would be possible if you weren't here in person. To our financial sponsors of the event, thank you so much. That obviously wouldn't have been possible without you. To the City of Ashland, to Boyd County, specifically Randy Clark, thank you so much for your help in making this happen, and obviously to the SOAR team. Josh Ball has really been leading on the ground, and this event would not have been possible without Josh, so thank you, Josh, for your help on this. So until then, that is going to be it for SOAR Ashland 2022, and we look forward to seeing you at a future SOAR event in another Eastern Kentucky county to be determined and to be announced soon. So be on the lookout for that. Thank you all so much.